Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of the Four Pillars podcast. I am one of your hosts and one of the pillars, Tyler, joined by Ethan, James and George, the Four Pillars, here for the first time. And it's a historic moment. It's a long time coming. This has been something I personally have wanted to see for a long time, and obviously this particular episode, so many of you have wanted to see for so long. It's the Assassin's Creed Valhalla spoiler cast with the Four Pillars boys. We finally made it.
We did.
Fuck.
How the fuck are you feeling?
I'm excited.
Yeah. How long did this take? Oh, this is exciting. I mean, it's very exciting that this is the first episode of a new podcast and we're all here together and it's going to be a recurring thing and it's going to be brilliant. Everyone's going to love it and we're talking about
beautiful.
Assassin's Creed straight out.
Yeah, it's the only way to start these, really.
Of course.
Every successful thing starts with an Assassin's Creed episode. Clubhouse
Everything
began
that's successful
with an AC movie review. So, and it's become
bloody
something
hell.
else.
Yeah.
So, you know, where are we going to be in 5 years? Who knows?
It's because you need to start really fucking low and then change and build up. And that's how you grow. So you need to start
You
at
can
the
only
bottom.
go up from there,
And we're
yeah.
starting with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It can only go up. It can only go up because you can't get lower than this. No,
You know what?
can't,
You
I'm sorry.
could,
but
in
it's
theory,
pretty low.
you could go lower. You could touch kids. So there's always a worse.
God.
There is always a worse.
Of course. This is how we start the Four Pillars
It
podcast.
has to be done.
And not just
Hello,
and
cancel
not
me.
just the Four Pillars podcast. It's also the first podcast on the Four
Wow.
Pillars Network,
Yeah, that's
our
wild.
brand new network channel. If you haven't checked out the trailer we just released 3 hours ago, check it out. It explains everything. We talk about this podcast. The As Always podcast is going to be here every other Monday. This podcast doesn't come out. Plus, every Tuesday, the Streamcast with the Conversations Boys plus guests. And the Past cast with Joe and Jack. So excited for 2021 with the Four Pillars Network this first year. And the development of, you know, down the road, more shows, more content, and potentially more collaborators down the road. But to launch it's a huge launch. It's a huge launch with 4 great shows that I'm really proud of and excited about. Plus, to launch with a big show, which will probably be, the 4 of us have done many podcasts together, many huge viewed podcasts. Over on the Kill Connor Club, As Always podcast history, but now it's our own. It's not just me and James, you two are guests or guest hosts. This is a 4 of us equal podcast.
Yeah.
This is so exciting. Honestly, this is crazy.
And no fucking guests
Yeah.
ever because we're good, you know what I mean?
No guests ever.
You can
no
keep the
guests
guests over on As Always, you know. There you go. That's content.
Exactly. Look at that.
We don't have friends over
Yeah.
here. This is what we like to call the basement, where we just dwell
Exclusive
and
club.
game and talk about gaming and films and
God.
and everything virgin. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. So.
Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant. I'm ecstatic to talk about it. Ethan, do you want to, people that might not have seen the trailer, before we jump into the Valhalla spoilercast, Ethan, do you want to give them like a rundown of, I guess, what they can expect from this show going forward? Because it's not always going to be Assassin's Creed Valhalla spoilercast. Like, what
No,
are they
it
going to
is.
see
It's
from the
always
Four
gonna
Pillars
be that.
podcast?
It's always going to be
always
Assassin's
every episode.
Creed Valhalla. Every episode we talk about Assassin's Creed. No, okay. So what this podcast is basically the 4 of us. We've been mates for years at this point. It's almost too long, you know. There's no logical.
Definitely too long.
If you've been on the internet for 5 minutes, you know that nobody gets along for this long. So something's going wrong.
We're faking it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're faking it. We hate each other immensely.
It's true.
But basically, it's 4 mates coming together and being ourselves, having a laugh, and having a great time with it. And it's gonna be an absolutely amazing podcast, and I cannot wait to properly get this one off the ground. And we might joke about it, but in fairness, Assassin's Creed Valhalla spoiler cast isn't a bad way to start. It's definitely starting from the floor, if you know what I mean. Like we're jumping, but we're gonna be fine. Don't worry about it.
Like, at least we didn't start this in like 2018, because that would have been a worse.
2016
worse
would have been much
First
worse.
episode of the Four Pillars podcast,
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Empire speculation. So, guys, what do you think they're going to do with the blacksmiths in this game?
Oh, the pain.
Oh,
Yeah.
the economy, in-game economy.
Stealth
Yeah.
and gameplay mechanics.
It's
Fascinating.
it's happened at the right time, I think. Like,
Yeah.
I always envisioned one day in my head, because I always have these things that I eventually force upon James
You're a
and
visionary.
you guys inevitably.
You can't say no, James.
And I had the Four Pillars podcast in my head at some point down the road. I didn't expect it to be 2021. I thought the soonest would be next year. I wasn't going to approach you guys with it until like the end of this year, maybe, as something we could do down the
But
line.
I did.
But
welcome.
but like it was Ethan that came to us a few months ago, and pretty much saying like, how do we, make it us together, really making that clear to our community, and how do we have a mothership that isn't, I guess, as always, is me and James, and is that the umbrella of the community, which doesn't make sense, because then where does that leave Ethan and George? Like, it was like finding a project we could all do together, and that's what birthed the network. We left, like, had the Christmas break, and then kind of came back to you like, okay, what have we thought about? And the network was what we came to after we had a good meeting and chat together, which is super exciting. James, do you want to explain a bit more of like how this all came together as well?
I think it's one of those things that I never really thought about until we started doing it, and now it makes so much sense that we should have. It feels like something that should have happened a long time ago. The idea that this community, I mean, we've always called ourselves the Four Pillars, but it's never been an official brand. It's never been an official business or anything like that. It's just sort of what we call ourselves, just our like group name. It's like a weird thing that, you might know it, you might not know it. Sometimes we do podcasts together. Yeah, I mean, it began as a meme because it pissed people off.
We upset Twitter.
Yeah,
we upset people in the Assassin's Creed community with a joke, and so it's stuck. Yeah, because we're wind-up merchants.
Well, actually, to be fair, it wasn't even a joke. Like, I was being genuine when I said it. All I did was I called us four of the pillars of the Assassin's Creed community, and a bunch of people were like, "How dare you call yourselves the Four Pillars? There's more than you four." I'm like, I didn't say that, but if you're saying it, then all right. I guess that's what we are.
Yeah, I guess that's what we are, because now they refer to it us as that anyway, and it's like, well, you just okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and
that's how that happened.
But it's even better now, because they used to just try to like ignore us, and I was like, well, our brand's bigger than your community, so it's whatever. Like, go fuck yourself. Your community's a joke, so go fuck yourself. Yeah,
let's fight.
Yeah.
Let's upset people right out the gate. This is what we're doing every single episode. Drama,
Could give a fuck. I don't listen to any of their shit anyway. I could give a fuck.
Honestly,
man.
They
listen to
podcast.
Us,
Fuck off.
They love us. They love us. Some of them.
Yeah.
I reckon they have someone painstakingly trawl through this to wait for us to say something. I said it in the first 5 minutes. You can stop watching now.
Yeah.
I made my paedophile joke.
Yeah, there it is.
There you go. There you go.
Yep,
cancel
there it
me.
is. Cancel Ethan.
Do it, please. I actually want to get cancelled once, because, as it turns out, nothing happens according to James here. So I like to see.
Yeah, that's true. They've tried many times.
I reckon it'll be brilliant publicity. Getting cancelled for not being a moron.
Okay, maybe not at the launch of our new brand and
try to get cancelled.
And Ethan wants to get cancelled.
I'd love to. I have a cancel fetish. Like, okay, turn me on. You know what I mean?
Okay,
it would be fantastic.
I mean, for Ethan, you've done your own podcast with the Fish Tank in the past.
If you
George, this is your first like podcast.
That's actually wrong.
Yeah, it's false, you fucking fake fan.
I did a really bad podcast in like 2013 called
let's
Chat.
not pretend that was
doesn't count. It doesn't count. It doesn't count. It was really bad. Like 6 episodes.
It was better than,
that doesn't count, but the Fish Tank does.
Well, that's still on Patreon. You still do the Fish Tank, don't you?
No, fair enough. It's not got a high production value. It's just me talking to people, having a great time, and we have a joke about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like Clubhouse.
Yeah, that's a podcast. It's quite a long, ongoing podcast.
Yeah, 26 whole episodes. Lovely.
That's. I mean, true. But I guess, George, how are you feeling about this show from your point of view, and where would you like to see it go? What do you expect, George? What are you expecting from the launch of this channel, the network, and this show?
Oh God, I just want it to be a way for us to sort of have more. Well, me especially, because I've been sort of distant over the last couple of years, but I want to be more involved with the community, and I think this channel was like a really good opportunity for that, for us to like be, what's the word, like direct communication with the community, because it's obviously a network. We're going to have lots of different creators on here doing their own thing. I think the more networking we have like that, the better for the community it's going to be, and I just can't wait to see it prosper, man. Like, I'm so excited for this. I've always wanted to be part of like a podcast, and like I've loved being on the As Always podcast over the years. That's like one of my highlights of doing this whole YouTube thing, and now the fact that us four are doing it together, it's just it's amazing, man. It's so great. It's surreal.
Is it? There's a confidence to it. There's a confidence I feel personally to know it.
Yeah, I'm confident as fuck.
I trust the three of you so much. Like, with running something together, I know we're all going to show up for each other, have each other's backs, and be committed to doing this and have a shared vision. And also, if there's issues, we talk about it. Like, literally, we've all had concerns or things we don't like that we're doing, but that's almost how this show happened. The network almost happened because we had a conversation, like we had concerns with where we were going as a community. How can we fix it? The network now exists, this show now exists because of one of those conversations, because we're honest with each other, and we're genuine friends. We're not four guys that are YouTubers that realize that we can make money off each other. This is literally just like we're four mates that have fun doing it, and we're going to keep doing it and working together to do it. So I have that confidence because of that foundation is real. It's not bullshit. That's why I know this show's, there's no ceiling.
It's never like difficult.
Make money off each other too,
Yeah, we're
of course,
good mates.
There's both. Why can't we have both? Why can't we have both?
Can we beef it? Have a boxing match and then one of us dies and then we make money off that as well. That'd be
okay. Well, maybe not die. Maybe just seriously injured.
Get seriously battered. Gets absolutely levered.
Tyler just pummels me in the face.
I mean, we definitely get publicity off that.
Yeah, true.
That's true. That's true.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm voting Ethan. I don't want to pummel anyone. I don't want to pummel anyone. I really don't.
That's the exact opposite.
I'm gentle.
But yeah, I mean, I think this is good though. I'm looking forward to it, and I think the community's gonna love it. That's what I'm so excited for, to see everyone's reaction to it and be like, not only are we getting the Valhalla spoiler cast and there's this new announcement, but like I think people are genuinely gonna be so excited about this podcast specifically. So I'm really excited to see what everyone's reaction.
I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. I'm loving it. This is great. This is just us. We've already got this dynamic. We can take it and actually do something with it as opposed to on occasion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
And it'll benefit all four of us in great ways, and the entire community as well. And that is, I think that's invaluable. So that's
exciting.
The goal. You know what I mean?
That's the dream.
Yeah, and it's going to be like a very community involved show. Yeah, that's it. That's right. And it'll be a very community-involved show, in the sense of this isn't just the As Always podcast with Ethan and George, like, because we've been doing podcasts together for a while. You know what I mean? This isn't the first time the four of us have done a podcast together. We've done many, many, many. But we want this show to have its own identity, and there's going to be certain like segments and things. We're not just going to come on here and talk about gaming news, or have guests. Like, this is the four of us. We're going to have like segments to this show that involves the community, that and little fun, goofy things we come up with. But we want this to be its own proper produced show that is the four of us, that is the four of our identity, and has its own identity, and is at the end of the day us being us together as mates, like Ethan said at the top of the show.
Yep.
Yeah. Lovely.
And with that, Assassin's Creed Valhalla sucks dog shit. So I'll just start with that.
Here we go.
And then we'll get into it.
Oh god, it's gonna be a long episode.
All right, I'll bite. Why does this? Okay, Tyler. Okay, Tyler. I must ask. Why does Assassin's Creed Valhalla suck dog shit? And why is it doing that?
I didn't know when I was looking for an Assassin's Creed game that I wanted no assassins in it, and the only one that was there actually just ended up being fucking Loki, the Norse god, who came back 75,000 years later, and then there's like, you know what, I'm gonna beef with Odin and Tyr, who just happened to reincarnate at the same time as I did, because the game is about three Isu that reincarnate and fight again, but also only one of them knows what it's about, and the other two don't. And then they all just sort of never acknowledge what happened again.
Yeah, why does Basim
there's no assassins again?
But the rest don't?
Okay, well, just in case you're wondering, this is an Assassin's Creed Valhalla spoiler cast, and
that's true.
Well,
spoilers.
maybe there'll be spoilers. I just don't think people expected there to be spoilers this early.
People are going to comment.
What do you mean? Don't watch it. It's a spoiler cast. If you haven't finished Valhalla, don't watch it.
We also introduced our entire concept of the channel and the show.
People are going to comment.
I
know. That's
Valhalla
fine.
Sucked dog shit because assassin Loki killed people. Fuck it.
Ethan,
put that in the title.
Just put spoilers at the top, like in between, like right before I say any of that.
Yeah,
just
but that's
would be like put your own
Look,
narration. Be
spoilers
like,
begin
all right,
now.
there are
to
spoilers
be honest.
about to come.
To be honest, that's like saying think fast and then quickly lobbing a brick at somebody's head. You know? It's
Yeah,
fair.
well, just fucking think fast, man. Just you either catch it or you're getting fucking hit
Quickly,
in the nose.
Alt
This is
F4.
the fucking. This is how the world works. This is how the world works. 2021.
It's
bro.
okay, Tyler.
Fucking
I
catch it or
don't
you're
think
going
there's
down.
many people who give a shit about Assassin's
There's
Creed.
also going to be spoilers for Assassin's Creed Origins,
Yeah.
such as Hepzibah dies during the game.
Wait, what do you
Oh,
mean
that's
Hepzibah
yours.
dies?
Does anyone know one?
He was my
side
favourite
character in
character from the
Origins?
Desert Oath novel, for fuck's sake, man.
Oh god.
As long as I
can't
get his
remember the
famous
name of
fire
any
sword,
side
then we'll be
characters in
alright.
Origins.
Yeah, there you
Temu
go.
dies, and
Oh, God.
he can't use the apple, even though he's got a stupidly high concentration of fursive DNA.
And in case
That's
you're
another spoiler
wondering,
for Origins.
God damn
Desmond
it.
dies in Assassin's Creed 3, and if you didn't know that by now, then there's no helping you. Fuck.
Honestly, mate, you're in too deep if you don't know that.
Oh yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
You are in too deep.
Well, okay,
We certainly are.
I don't even know. I just don't know where to begin with this.
No,
Where to start?
I just don't know where to
me
begin.
neither.
At the
Like,
beginning,
Like
I guess.
I am just this game. This game was just not what I wanted it to be in any way. Like I was.
anyway.
They felt like they started the game like trying to please all the fans, or that's how the game felt, and it sort of worked for like 5 to 10 hours. The assassins are sort of introduced, and I'm like, oh, this is a bit mysterious. Like, I wonder what's gonna happen. Like, it intrigues you. You want to know more. Like, what's the hidden ones? Like, and clearly there's more they want to tell you. Turns out there's not at all. They don't care about assassins in this franchise at all. And then they're like, oh, there's some cool Norse stuff. They set up a bit of a world. It's like, wow, this is a cool like setting, and plus, oh, there's a bit of like, you know, some story going on, some tension building with Eivor and his brother and his or her brother, whatever.
His.
Yes, Sigurd. And then you're like, okay, there's a few things going on. I'm intrigued. What's gonna happen next? And then you proceed to do a bunch of nonsensical arcs where you meet, you know, like becoming friends with leaders in different regions, and then don't get assassins ever at any point, even when I'm building towards it. And then Eivor doesn't understand anything I care about, and only cares about things I don't care about. And then at the end, it's actually about 3 reincarnated gods that want to have beef again.
They want to have beef again. They want to beef.
You know what I mean?
Meet outside
wanna beef
Tesco
again. So
car
if I-
park, whoever brings the biggest
Yeah,
shank
that is
wins.
like,
you know, there they are
it's just like
nanking each
catching
other
outside.
up.
How about that? You know? Yeah. And that's what the game's about, not assassins.
I definitely wouldn't have
so
you market the
that's-
game, Tyler. You're not selling it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know, but that's
Okay,
what
well,
the game
I
is.
think
So
right,
that's,
it's
you know,
like I get what you're saying, and I do agree to an extent with a lot of what you have to say. It's a complicated one because a lot of people are going to be like, oh, James flip flopping on his opinions, and it's not true. I still love this game, but there's so much game that there's enough to hate and enough to love in this game for me personally, and it's one of those things where if I say I could redo this game and I could change it, I definitely would do a lot of things differently. But that doesn't mean what I've got is something I dislike. It's so tough to say, and my major issue does come from the disconnect between the character journey that Eivor goes on and the things that are being presented to the player. I just think there's a massive disconnect between the open world exploration and discovery and Eivor's journey and the narrative that they're telling. Because a lot of it doesn't correlate, really. Whereas when you look at other Assassin's Creed games, the side content always aided that main story. So, like, when you're doing the side stuff as Edward, when you're going and getting those Templar keys and stuff, or whatever you might be doing, all of that aids Edward's journey into becoming an assassin.
Great example.
Or the side content in Brotherhood, everything aids taking down the Borgia.
Everything seems to be relevant plot
and it's you're
introduced to it in the plot, and then it becomes relevant, and then you can do it or you can't. You don't have to do all of it, but when you do it, it becomes, you know, it feeds back into the narrative.
It feels like
a
something
part,
the ancestor would have
feels
done.
like an optional chapter in the story that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And if you play it in the right spot, it fits in like a jigsaw.
Whereas with Valhalla, I don't know what getting Excalibur actually does for you. Like, you just go around with epic golds and swords.
And that's the thing. And there's
I fully take the piss with that. Like, I run about with Excalibur, Mjolnir, with that fucking bow on my back, and nobody says anything. Like, what?
And that's the thing, right? Is there's a lot of things in this game that aid the player or are there for the player, but they're not there for Eivor. So, like, going and getting all of those codex pages, those bureaus are so fucking cool, and the lore that you read is so fucking cool. But I could just read those on a wiki page. them being in Valhalla is of no consequence to the game itself because they don't affect Eivor at all because she can't read them. And
She
so
can't read the language.
that is my
Thank you
huge
so
issue.
much.
Is there
Thank
is so
you
much
so
I
much.
love, but I hate that it doesn't affect the character in any way, and that's what bothers me hugely about it.
It makes that it does sort of ruin that letter
ruined
from
it for me.
Bayek a little bit because it's like, oh look, there's a letter from Bayek here, but it's in a language I can't read. I'm going to stand over it for a couple of minutes and stare.
Yeah, and
So who's
you
this?
can tell there
What is
was
this?
huge compromise here.
And the
You
way
can
it's
tell,
presented felt like, it felt like it didn't matter. Because it wasn't like some big cutscene or the end of an arc. It's like, Hytham's still staring at the fucking wall while he's talking to you about this shit. You know what I mean? Like, he's still staring at the wall, looking through a scroll. I'm like, dickhead, you've been reading that for 3 years!
organised his role.
Fucking talk to me!
Hytham
Like
loves it, man.
You know what I mean?
He loves
They
the
really
wall.
should have done more.
And then
with
Eivor
Hytham,
like,
Yeah, I
nah, I
mean,
don't want to
Hytham-
join. I don't want to
Okay,
join.
now
Fuck you.
Here's the thing that I think will play into what Tyler thinks. There are no assassins in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Basim, to begin with, may be towards the end almost certainly not an assassin. He's got his own thing going on, and it has nothing to do with assassins. Hytham is the only assassin in the game, and in the first 15 minutes, he's relegated to bench warmer. What is that about?
Yeah, and I mean,
Like Hytham was like the coolest character for me. I fucking loved him.
Yeah, I
He's
was
just a
like
man who
Basim
stares
was
at
always.
his little tarp in his,
But I think-
in his gaff.
I think what's interesting about it though is,
But they
being an
underutilized.
assassin is more than climbing about and assassinating people. It's the whole philosophy, and I think they nailed that with Hytham. Like having conversations with him when he teaches you about the leap of faith, stuff like that. I really enjoyed those conversations.
But it
with
does
Hytham.
nothing.
Stuff.
It just does nothing. It does nothing.
It does
I
no.
like the leap of faith bit. That was cool.
That's my issue is that it doesn't lead anywhere for Eivor's character journey, and it, god.
Good for a little bit of lore, but there's no further.
That's
You know what I mean?
That's
I think
my
what-
problem with the whole game is all these things that I wanted to see. Sure, like while they were happening, I liked them. I liked while I was playing the bureaus. But then when you get to the end, I'm like, I feel like I wasted my fucking time. I liked Hytham's character and him talking to me all throughout. I loved learning social stuff from Basim at the start. I loved learning how to assassinate. I loved learning to leap of faith. What an amazing fucking moment. But the fact that it leads literally nowhere, I'm like, why even put it in the game at all? Because no one gives a fuck. Like, the character I'm playing as doesn't care. The whole conversation about learning to leap of faith was incredible. It now means nothing to me. And if I was to replay the game and I got to that section, I'm like, why am I even doing this? Like, why do I care about playing
I
this
just
section?
find it to be that was as cool as it was in the moment. You know why it's there. It's so you can just do it as the player rather than because Eivor actually cares to learn it. You know, like Eivor does it.
I felt like they were trying to please everyone. They were just trying to find compromises. Like, you have people like Darb McDevitt that's like, I know these fans want this stuff in here, so he wanted to do it. So I get what he was trying to do, but he couldn't get it to pay off because that's not what the powers that be wanted the game to be.
No.
You know, they didn't want
At the
it
end
to
of the
be.
day, it had to be an epic.
I
Viking
know
fantasy.
Darby would happily write a philosophical Assassin vs Templar game. I know he wants to, and he would if he could. I know that. So I'm not blaming him as a writer for not doing it. I understand how many fucking people made this game. It's thousands of people. How many people have high pay grades and want things to go a certain direction in a certain way. I get it. But it didn't please everybody. It actually made me fucking mad. Like that it's
Angry
there
Tyler.
and not there.
I think
Angry
before
Ty.
this point, right, it was always going to be a fucked one. In a way, Assassin's Creed has dug itself into this hole by pissing away all of its nuance and everything that made it unique and target any form of niche in the gaming community, broadly speaking. And so now it's just a mainstream history epic where you're a Viking or you're an eagle bearing Mystios in Greece or an Egyptian man whose son is dead. You stabbed
I
him
think
yourself.
there's a lot
right?
of nuance in Valhalla. Like,
I
I think
yeah,
I
but
agree with.
it's always overshadowed by this Viking fantasy running about with this gameplay that feels a little bit like at times, you know what, I like this, it's fine, but other times the combat, for example, is a bit of a
the combat
bit of a-
sucks.
bit
No,
of a
I
mess.
agree. The combat is
Like,
terrible. It's dreadful.
And at the end of the day, it feels like all of that is, you know, more focused on. It's what the game marketed. It's what it tried to sell it as. And in the game, there was a lot of that. And while there is nuance in it being Assassin's Creed and Devitt having some form of creative control over it, the main priority of the game didn't feel like it was Assassin's Creed necessarily. But I liked what was there as well. I just feel like it was trying to serve some other purpose than to tell us an Assassin's Creed story.
It definitely was. I think
George, I want to hear your thoughts, George. I don't know
what
actually you think of the game.
Yeah, sure. I think what Valhalla does really well, it really does well. Like, I think a lot of the dialogue in Valhalla is some of my favourite dialogue we've had in years for Assassin's Creed. Like that philosophical conversation with Basim as you're riding to, I don't know where you're riding to, but it's like an optional conversation. You just ride along with him and you have this conversation about his life and sort of like stuff that he thinks about the world. The audio logs from Desmond, that's some of the best dialogue we've had in Assassin's Creed since like Revelations. Like that stuff was amazing.
Yeah.
Like the philosophy, talking about the philosophy of the assassins and stuff like that. That was great.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on, Ethan.
I like that. Like, I like that stuff. That's the stuff that I went out of my way to look for a lot. But at times I felt like I was going out of my way to look for it. The bureaus, for example. You have to go out of your way to look for them. You will probably come across them naturally if you play through the story, but they're not there. They're obviously hidden quite well, to be fair. And you're not going to find them just by running about. You do actually have to look for them, I think.
Yeah, I had to ask the chat so many times, how do I get in?
I just... Well, I don't know. How did I find it? I think I just ran about.
Shoot the trash. Just shoot the trash.
Shoot the trash. Yeah, no, that one was mine. Yeah, but like I said, you have to go out of your way to find this stuff. Sometimes if you won't know, just playing the first time around, you won't know where to find some of this stuff, and some of it's just hidden so obscurely that it almost leaves you with this Viking fantasy, and you think, where does the Assassin's Creed factor in?
And to
key points in the story,
to go from,
maybe, but you know what I mean.
To go from George's point though, like. You bring up the dialogue and some of the best dialogue since Revelations or Black Flag. I agree with you. I expect nothing less from a Derby game. You know what I mean? Like, he's an amazing writer. The side characters in this game, like, throughout, like, likable. You actually remember who they are. They got some really good actors to play them. If you play if you watch The Last Kingdom, I should say, you'd know so many of the fucking actors.
They've got a Skyrim guard voice actor playing a character who looks like a Skyrim guard.
It's amazing.
It's
so good.
It's a Skyrim guard. Uber.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff there and the dialogue and stuff. But my point is, if you were to play a Revelations and you hear this philosophy conversations or a Desmond audio log or like these things you're saying you like about Valhalla, do you know what happens at the end of Revelations? This big assassin philosophical moment where our main character comes to grips of what the creed means finally and can let it go and complete his character arc. That's how it ends. And all those extra things you would have found play into that. The problem here is the dialogue with Desmond means fuck all to me because the character we spend too long playing as, because the game's simply too long, means literally nothing to that character.
It means
or
something
to the
Layla,
end game
though.
of the story. Like but it doesn't. It doesn't mean
I guess
anything
she
to
doesn't
Layla,
say
because
anything
what
about
what
it.
Layla does not only not say anything about it, she has no assassin story arc in this game herself. And she's an assassin, I guess. She's with assassins.
She has more of a hero story arc.
I mean, to be fair,
she just ends up, and her ending was fucking shit too. She's just like, I guess I'll stay. Like, they were building up to this end of the world thing again, and then at the end, it's like, no, by the way, you're gonna play as a 1,200-year-old hidden one that's actually a Norse god, Loki. So that's who you're gonna play as now, and the end of the world doesn't really matter. She's just gonna be with Desmond. Like, that happened so quick. It was like a 2-minute conversation. It's like, oh, Desmond's back. It's like, oh my god, that's kind of cool.
I love that.
And then
that was great.
And I liked it for about the 2 minutes. Then I realized, oh wait, that's it. There's no follow up to this. And then it's like, oh, now you're Basim. So
there's gonna be a sequel, obviously, or like
DLC. you know that.
Yeah, no, I get that, but that's like,
I'm not playing it. I'm not paying money in a DLC to find out what happens next, and I'm not playing another fucking game, George. I'm not fucking doing it.
So you're not going to play the DLC where Eivor actually becomes an assassin? Because I'm pretty sure that's what the next one's going to be.
I'm fuming. I'm not playing that bullshit.
Put it this way.
Making him an assassin in a DLC, fuck you.
It's not a him.
Fuck you if
you
make him an assassin in a DLC.
Let's get that straightened out right now. Eivor's a she.
Eivor is a she, it's true.
Well,
wait, all of you guys played it in male Eivor, didn't you?
I did a playthrough of both.
You're a culture man.
I'm currently doing Let the Animus Decide.
Yeah, no, I did Let the Animus Decide first time around, then I tried
started.
male the other way around, because Let the Animus Decide's always female Eivor, and then it's then it's male in the Asgard, which by the way is
don't even start. Don't even start.
Yeah, they made.
Don't even start with these mythical arcs.
The world design, anyhow, it's inconvenient for the sake of it.
The worst gameplay sequence of any Assassin's Creed I've ever played. Now, granted, I never played the Fate of Atlantis. I never played any of those DLCs in Odyssey, but that was the worst piece of gameplay I've probably ever played in any game.
How do you feel that Ezio's in that bit?
For me, it was almost certainly the second worst behind the Fate of Atlantis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just one of those.
How do you guys feel about that?
James,
Ezio
do you remember me?
bit of
James, do you remember me?
You what?
Oh, and well, it's not even Ezio, is it? It's not Ezio.
Who are you?
Who are you? Yeah, it's just some fucking.
I could do a better fucking impression. Let me do it.
Where was that? Where was that?
In the God arc, Jotunheim, where Minerva is talking to the big
the prophet, she's
portal
trying to,
thing.
Call out to the prophet, and then
was
Ezio's
that supposed to be Ezio?
Yeah,
it sounds like Alexios, doesn't it?
AC2.
When he goes, "Who are you?
Who are you?"
Anywho, I feel like right. Okay, now let me just iron this one out because I'll get to. Don't worry, Tyler. Don't butt in. I'll get to exactly what you're thinking.
So, I apologize.
So what it is I'm thinking, right, yes, I think they will go and do an actual assassin story and go into the assassin side of it in maybe the DLC at some point. But I feel like, from Tyler's perspective, and this is something I agree with in a way, you don't owe Ubisoft the patience to do that.
Yeah,
like, this is Assassin's Creed, you know what I mean?
It is Assassin's Creed, and it should have assassins in the fucking main game.
And
that's something that really pissed me off.
Extra for it.
Like if you watch my stream, when Eivor says at the end, when she's like, she's had all those character arcs and stuff and all that development, she goes, "I just want the glory with the boys," or whatever the fuck she says. If you watch my stream, I got so pissed off at that. It's almost like
terrible.
She throws away that line, throws away all of the fucking development. Sorry, what was that, mate?
Is that when you handed in all the medallions to hide them?
Yes.
And then it's like, would you consider joining the hidden ones? And you go,
no,
and then Eivor goes, without giving you the choice to say anything, no.
Yeah.
No glory in that, even though the end of the story is Eivor throwing down her axe and going, right,
saying,
that's enough
glory's
of that.
not worth it.
Odin's like, what do you want? I can give you
Odin
glory, fame, blah, blah.
Glory,
like,
power,
I
wisdom, all that. What else do you need? Everything else. But
glory, but also glory as well, though. To be fair, right, let me just defend Darby here, because he has spoken to me about this, and he said to me that line, if he could rewrite it, he would rewrite it, because he just doesn't think it conveys at all what he was trying to say. And the reason it ended up being what it was is because due to COVID, they didn't have time to re-record any rewritten lines. It was too late, and they just went ahead with it, and there's so much dialogue in the game. So it didn't end up happening, and he has said it before. He said it to me, and he said it on Reddit as well, that he would like to rewrite that line. But
which line? The Hytham one?
The Hytham one, yeah. Where Eivor says about glory. He thinks the repetition of glory is what downplays the arc, because it doesn't. Because for her to deny glory to Odin and then say to Hytham, "I want glory," isn't really displaying the arc. But what Darby thought in Darby's head is the arc was Eivor putting down or putting to rest the side of her that is all about glory for herself, and instead she wants glory for her clan and her people and for them to prosper. That was essentially what he was trying to get across, but it doesn't really do that or make a great deal of sense.
You know what?
I thought I'd just explain.
I was happy. I was personally happy Eivor didn't join the Assassins. I was like, yeah, why the fuck would you? You showed no character. You showed zero traits of being an assassin. You don't deserve it. I don't want you to be an assassin. Go fuck yourself. Like if Eivor had joined the Assassins at the end in that arc, I would have been like, it doesn't feel like a big moment. It felt like such a underplayed arc, underplayed moment. This it was all so weirdly done, and I was like, I don't want Eivor to join the Assassins. It's like, fuck you. Like, you're not worthy of it anyway. Like, you've shown no traits, and I don't think there was an arc for Eivor to be an assassin.
No, of course.
Yeah, there's an arc for Eivor to not focus on glory. No, of course it could have been, but there wasn't. Yeah, there just wasn't an arc there.
Like towards the end, I was thinking it was going in that direction.
That wasn't the arc that made sense. Eivor was becoming the Jarl of a clan. Yeah, sure, letting glory for personal glory. I got that. I understood that arc. Didn't care about that arc, but I understood that arc. So I didn't ever think that Eivor was then just like, oh no, I'm gonna give up like being out the front and being in battles and stuff. Like that's an assassin doesn't go to war and lead charges and fort assaults. And
Connor does.
Connor does, yeah.
Connor, but we
also
also have established for many years that
bullet shield.
This is the last one.
We've established Connor's not an assassin. But what I want to say here is these things that like that in the moment you love, and in the moment I did love the city arcs. Like homage to AC1, how good. Like, you know, or doing 3 assassinations in each city. I loved that at the time. Like Jorvik, I fucking loved that arc, right? At the time. But at the same time, when I really look at it, I'm like, I never once understood why the fuck is Eivor give a shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is Eivor there doing assassinations and actually being stealthy and putting on a hood in these cities to kill all the enemies? Like, I never really bought in that why Eivor's there really. Because Eivor's like, oh, I'm helping my mate Hartham sort of, and I'm following the show. Like, but why?
It's because
like, you don't really care.
It's because
you don't
Hytham
really
convinces her that if she wants to rule England, that she needs to like kill the Order of Ancients because they're almost like a blight on the land.
Yeah, I understand, but there wasn't enough
of a
for me.
reason.
The reason is
Yeah.
mutual goal.
The reason,
and that's not what you want.
There's enough reason for Eivor to want to kill these people, but I don't think there's enough justification for the methods she uses, being so assassin-like.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
She's been a Viking her entire life, but then one man from the Middle East tells her, you can wear your hood and blend in, and then she's like, I'm going to do that forever now.
Oh,
what a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that all the time. I'm just going to wear my hood all the time. Sneaking is sick, guys. You know, we should try sneaking, but also, I really just want glory, and there's no glory in sneaking around, but I've been doing it for the last 75 hours of the fucking game, because that's all I did. That's all I did. I rarely got into combat. I was just doing stealth all the time, and at the end, Abe was like, no. There's no glory in sneaking and stabbing from the shadows. I'm like, well, you've been doing it the whole game, Abel! Oh.
So as it turns,
no stealth.
It's really hard to believe anyone here.
It really is, isn't it? Because like I do like it, and it's just like
I have a lot of appreciation for it for sure.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I hated it. I actually fucking hated it. Like all the things I liked. By the end, I felt like I got spat in my face. That's how I felt at the end of the game.
I understand
felt like
all
the things that I enjoyed throughout my way too long of a playthrough was spat in my face, and all the things that mattered, and this is what grinds my gears the most. The thing that makes me the most mad about this game and what the arc was about is that the 2 worst arcs in the game, the 2 worst pieces of gameplay in the whole game that I hated.
What?
He's talking about the mythical
George.
arcs.
The worst.
Oh no, I'd say those are the worst, to be honest.
The mythical arcs I wanted to be dead. Like every second, I was messaging James while playing Asgard. He'll tell you. I was like, dude, tell me in the sense. I can't play this for more than 3 minutes. I want to be dead.
I will.
This was so awful.
You know what?
And then you're telling me the most important arcs to the story were those 2 arcs. That's the ending.
Also,
the most important arcs are those 2, and I fucking hated them.
Those 2 arcs.
Oh my god.
Those 2 arcs are some of the worst.
Oh my god.
Some of the worst. Like I said, some of the worst parts of the entirety of Assassin's Creed. I'll be honest. Sure, there might have been a narrative there that made some form of sense for the story, and I get that. You know what? But gameplay-wise, let's look at Asgard as a world map, shall we? Look at it. Loads of hills all over the place. It's literally there to inconvenience you by climbing these tall things. And there just doesn't feel like there's enough there. Why don't you go fight with Thor or that rabbit from the other one? It was a squirrel, wasn't it?
It doesn't even look like Asgard. It looks like fucking... it looks like... what's the place from Blood and Wine?
Which place?
Blood and Wine? It
the
looks
place you go in Blood and Wine.
Tucson.
What's it called? Yeah, it looks like Tucson. I don't know why. It doesn't look like Asgard.
It looks like Tucson if you sapped the soul out of it and gave it misery.
I gave it lots and lots of cliffs to climb up endlessly.
It looks like if Quebec made Tucson from The Witcher 3.
It's really shoddy. I think it's really shoddy in the sense that, it doesn't feel like it justifies the size of that. It doesn't feel focused at all. You just spend most of the time running about from A to B, climbing up cliffs and jumping off of tall mountains.
Do you know what? I reckon I think the reason the game has such a ridiculous tolerancy for fall damage is because of those arcs, because those maps are built so fucking horrifically.
But then again, that's sort of why it was in the fall damage thing was not a thing in Odyssey, isn't it? Because they just they had this world design of just cliffs
all the
Yeah,
time.
it was bad.
But also,
And
God,
so
it was
like,
so bad.
these mythical arcs, right? They're actually optional. You don't have to play them to complete the whole game.
Yeah, no, thank
Which
fuck,
is
but
insane
also-
to
Wait,
me.
what?
It's insane to me that to get the ending with Sigurd, you have to play Essex, but you don't have to play Asgard, which is
Essex.
insane to me because Essex adds
What's
nothing
the Essex
to it.
arc?
It's the one with
The Essex arc, the French
Yeah,
woman
yeah,
who wants to
yeah,
pretend that
Yeah,
she's been.
yeah, it's so
Yeah.
bad.
What
Oh
do you-
God, it makes
what
it
do you-
bad.
sick.
Yeah, it's bad.
That arc is it's just a waste of time.
I legitimately skipped all the dialogue in that arc. I realized you realize at the start because the opening of every one of these arcs, you're like, is there characters I've seen before or never seen before? Like, is Bassam there? Is Sigurd there? Or is like one of the sons of Ragnar there? If not, I'm skipping the dialogue. That's what I got to. Honestly, almost every arc in the last third of the game, I just skipped all the
That's a
dialogue.
shame
Like,
because there was
doesn't
some really
matter.
good ones.
I
There were
already
some
know.
alright
I
ones.
already know it means nothing.
Yeah.
I already know this arc is meaningless to the story, and I just want this game to end.
There are a few.
The last third,
Like,
I
I
wanted
like
it to end.
Ubisoft,
Every
and
There are a
Jorvik.
lot of arcs over the course of the game that I don't feel
The city
should
arcs
be,
are good. I like the
should
city
be
arcs.
essential to the main story and should just be optional, like side arcs you can do. That would have been a good way to keep that sort of that saga feel that Darby wanted to go for, but also have have a narrative that doesn't take the piss with how long it is.
Well, like
Because there are some
Gloucester,
things you could
actually.
just. Some things you can just not do because they're not especially relevant. Like what was the Gloucestershire arc? Or is it Gloucester?
I
Gloucestershire,
Whatever
don't
it's
know how to
yeah.
pronounce it.
that arc
So bad.
that arc I actually kind of enjoyed
did
it, but
too,
I think
yeah.
it would have been a lot better had I
You
not
enjoyed
had to
it?
do it.
You
Yeah.
both enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
I
because
enjoyed it.
I don't even. I couldn't tell. I don't remember
Big
one
Wicker
single
Man
arc.
and burnt to death.
Nah,
It's
I hate the
great.
bit where they fucking tried to copy that Red Dead Redemption 2 bit where you get drunk with Lenny. It's literally exactly the same. It's like you
Oh,
go around
yeah.
the town, get drunk with Tevdir. It's so
Tevdir.
fucking. But it's like that.
Tevdir is the best character in the
Wait,
game. Let's
wait.
be honest with
Is
ourselves.
that? Is that?
I love
is that
you're
the
right
arc
with
in
that,
like
is
the
that they were
fucking?
trying to do the Lenny scene.
Yeah, they were.
They really were.
That they were trying to do the Lenny scene.
Is that the
with
arc
but that-
of that festival?
No. What I'm saying is that's an arc that should have been optional.
Yeah, it should have been.
This
Like,
is okay.
along with
Essex.
other arcs like Essex, where you just have this useless Jarl or whatever he's
Yeah,
called, not Jarl,
yeah. Oh, God.
Elderman, useless Elderman, and his wife who wants to pretend to be abducted to flee to France to fuck off because they're not happy.
Yeah.
and then you bring
fuck her,
bring
can't
him
you?
back to some random. What?
You can.
I reckon you
you can
probably
romance
can.
her.
Yeah, I mean, I was fully committed to cocking out Sigurd, so I didn't really. Pay
Yeah,
attention, you know
same,
what I mean?
same. Oh, that's all I did
We-
the entire
That's
game.
the truth, but that's alright. I was a good guy. Hey, look,
Yeah.
Cocking Sigurd.
this is my proposition, right, for how you could restructure this game. And I think that so to get the Abel Sigurd ending in Norway with Bassam and all that stuff, right, and the modern day ending, which is basically the main end of the game, you have to do every single arc in the game, which I think is ridiculous. I think there's only particular arcs that you should have to do to get that ending. If you want to get the epilogue, then you can go and you can pacify England. But I don't think you should have to pacify England to get that ending with Sigurd. It doesn't make
No,
sense
of
to me
course.
because nothing connects to that. Everything you do in the game, whether it's Essex or Gloucestershire or Leicestershire, whatever it is, those arcs all play into the Hamptonshire arc right at the very end. But they don't play into the Eivor Sigurd story. So why are they necessary to get that ending and to get that modern day ending when they're entirely irrelevant?
Pad the
They
game
should
out.
With
be
the
separate.
Leicestershire arc, it makes a bit more sense because Sigurd, still has his arm in that, and it wouldn't make sense if he's running around with a stump. But no, I do know what you mean. Some of the arcs don't further that story. They
Most
just
of
further
them
the-
don't, to be fair.
That they're just. It should be more focused on the ones that do, and then the others could be optional. And then you could have your Viking fantasy if you want, or you could have your assassin game because it's Assassin's Creed.
That's why it should be,
You know
because
what I
the
mean?
issue here as well is that, Odyssey had so much filler and so much padding, and it forced you so many times to go out of your way and stop doing the main story so you could do a bunch of pointless shit to level up. What Valhalla does is, sure, it removes the grind because you never have to stop playing the main story, but all they did was take the grind and make it the main story. So,
Yeah.
you do have to stop playing the main story to go and do a bunch of other shit. But if you want to, you can't even try and tackle the next main mission until you've done a bunch of... it's worse. It's actually worse in some ways. Because a lot of what they do... So, in Odyssey, if you want to... Say you want to play New Game Plus, you can just blitz through the main story and it's not very long. If you want to do that with Origins, New Game Plus, you can do that as well. You can just go through through the main story. And if you wanted to, even on like a new playthrough, you could try and just tackle the next main mission. It'd be really fucking hard, but you could at least do it. In Valhalla, you finish Oxenfordshire, and then it goes, right, now go do like 3 bullshit fucking side missions, side arcs that are going to take you 9 hours in total.
Sigurd has been captured by Falkner and is being tortured.
Go to Essex.
Yeah,
that I was just about to bring that up. Yeah, honestly, man. You've hit the nail on the head.
And then you finally show up and get Sigurd, and then you bring him back to Ravensthorpe, and he sat there in his seat going, "You took your time to come and get me," and it's like, no, the game didn't. Took its time. I was going as fast as I could.
So the game didn't let me. I would have come for you straight away, Sigurd.
Sadly, I had to go do Essex. I had to go get a woman out of England and get her to escape to France. I had to, Sigurd. You don't understand how important it was.
I'm sorry, Sigurd. The wind was calling me to Ramsey.
Oh my god!
When he's away, being captured, you can shag his wife.
Yeah, you can! Sigurd's away, being tortured.
Oh my god!
And you can literally cock him out.
Yeah.
Oh god!
It's out of nowhere as well. Ramsey goes, "Are you up for a bit of a trip?" And you're like, "Sure." I don't know where this is going. And then suddenly you're taken to this place. You go and doing all sorts of weird shit in
Grantabridgeshire,
which is Cambridgeshire, and basically you then you can just.
Give her one.
Yeah,
you know what I
You
mean?
just give her one for the boys.
Give it to her.
One.
Give it to her for Sigurd.
Give her one for the boys.
You're just thinking of Sigurd when you do it. You're like,
I'm sweating my arse.
He'd appreciate
also,
this.
Do you want to know something? You want to know something really funny as well? If you do that, it contributes to what the game considers its bad ending.
Oh yes,
Either Sigurd stays in Norway or Sigurd returns to England.
I got the 100% bad end. I got all of the bad things.
Yeah, because you went against Sigurd every single time.
Because he was being a little bitch. Like, I don't know. It's like that first bit where you can take the supplies. It's like, I don't see, it's my fucking right. I got them. Why is Styrbjorn taking them from me like some bitch? It's like, why is Sigurd even mad about that anyway? Because he hates his dad. Why is he getting pissed off that I took the supplies?
Because he doesn't hate his dad.
Well, at the end, he could have fooled me.
Like, it's just the noble choice.
It's fucking sad, old man.
Like, we can get more supplies. We should leave it with the people that are part of our hometown. That's what he was saying, basically.
Yeah, but we didn't even do anything anyway. I didn't even notice the difference.
I think I played the balance right up and managed to get the good ending just both times.
Yeah, I got the good one too.
I fucked about.
I didn't even know there was good or bad endings.
Well, to put it this way, right? Sigurd either fucks off or he doesn't. So it's not like a good ending or bad ending. It's ending variation A or ending variation B.
Honestly, right. I was watching George's streams. I actually think the bad ending is better than the good ending.
I think it is as well,
because that speech that Eivor gives when you get back and Sigurd's not there, and she really takes on the role of being, the Jarl of this community, and like I love that moment. I think it's performed really well by both actors, where Eivor gets up and she goes to give this speech, and then she just is like, no, this is fake. I need to speak from the heart, and like that's really when she becomes this leader. And you've come to know all of these characters, and the settlement does feel like home, and I love that. I think it's a beautiful ending, and it ends with the same song from the beginning and everything, and like it's really well rounded, and I really love that about the game. And we've talked a lot about shit that we don't like, but I mean there is a lot that is there that I fucking love. So
yeah, like they got the human aspect of characters, I think, really, really well in this game. There's some characters that are terrible. Well, yeah, the character models are still the Odyssey character models for the most part.
Well, some of them are okay, and other ones have weird beards and hair, and it looks really.
Yeah, weird. Like honestly, some of the I don't like this current engine they're using, but I like the characters in this game.
Yeah,
one of the games that I like the writing of, but the execution made me go, oh no, it's Chaelbert. You want to know why? Because he sounds like fucking Google Translate.
Oh, not Chaelbert when he gets stabbed by fucking Ivar. And there's epic Ivar boss fight.
He was genuinely one of my favourite.
He was one of my favourite characters. Where he stuck his head in the freezer. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
No.
Ivar was great.
Ivar sets on fire and then goes, not actually hurt though. And
I hated that. James, you fucking loved that
I did.
bit.
I don't anymore. Just don't worry about it.
You were like, oh, it's like Vikings when it happens in Vikings.
It's funny because
it's
funny because it's especially funny when you realise he then stops and beats Jacob Fry.
Oh yeah, Jacob Fry plays that.
You've done it again. Yeah. You've done it again, Ubisoft.
Well done.
Ivar's set on fire.
Best moment in AC.
That was such a shit moment because I was like, wait, why though?
Yeah,
is it because he's got a tattoo now of a dragon or something? Is that why? Why?
He's
Is
got
he
a
first
tattoo of a
Civ?
dragon on his face,
I think
and now it's time to kick
I
off.
think in terms of writing, that moment was supposed to be that Ivar caught on fire and then like put himself out and like just push through the pain. But the way the game displays it is that he gets set on fire and it does absolutely nothing to him. And I think that's what makes it silly.
Okay,
it's not that it doesn't do anything to him, it's that he enjoys it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like he's such a mad cunt that he's like, this is fine, being on fire,
This
like, I
is
don't give a
fucking
shit.
sick. And then, you know, I mean, if you were on fire like that, you'd probably be in trouble after the adrenaline had fucked off.
That's true, but
no,
he's
like,
different.
He's like, come on, King Big Man, let's go to a hill so I can brutally murder you, and then I can fight Eivor.
That's so dumb. I hate the boss battle.
Because,
why did you do a boss battle?
Because then
for
it
that?
creates tension with Ubba later if you don't send me to Valhalla sort
But
of thing.
Ubba gets fucking like speared multiple times anyway. It's not like it even matters. He gets fucked. I like that bit where you can go and find his body though. Like right
That's
at the
another
end.
thing, that I talked about was the whole concept
I love
of
the fact that it's
like some things in the game, like that moment, are great, but also they can just be missed by a lot of players. And there's like,
because there's subtlety to it.
And it's like, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? And I think it just depends on the thing.
See, there's a subtlety to it, and the subtlety's nice, but it's in a game that, for the most part, doesn't appreciate subtlety a lot of the time.
Yes.
Because Assassin's Creed, as an overall franchise, has sort of lost its respect for subtlety. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
I mean, I wouldn't say that Origins was especially subtle. Odyssey wasn't subtle by any means. It was eagle-bearing Misthios does fuck all.
It was on the nose.
Eagle-bearing Misthios finds a rock that says everything is permitted written on it.
Yeah, no, it's animus magic. No, but the point is, when you expect subtlety's good. But when you don't, you'll just miss it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do find those things, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Yeah, fair enough. But I think that what I'm trying to say here is, if subtlety is important, and it's shown because when there's something subtle going on, and you find it, and you're like, oh wow, you know, like I could have missed this.
Yeah.
Brilliant. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. That's where I sort of start to enjoy myself properly. But when I miss it, it's because I don't feel like the game is especially subtle for the most part.
Yeah, it's almost like an accident.
Mm-hmm.
When they have subtle things, it's almost like, did you mean to do that?
I love the if you know sort of approach to some things. Like there was something in the Vinland arc that was very, you know, you either know or you don't, and we don't care to tell you which. That's how it
was
should be.
maybe one of the best, maybe the best arc in the game.
So
honestly,
good.
because the whole thing
that's the only arc that wasn't ruined. That's the only arc that wasn't ruined.
It honestly, the Vinland arc just takes you completely out of this RPG, fantasy, Viking, everything. It just takes you out of it and just goes, you're playing as this character, you're in North America, just do this very linear arc where your progression of getting gear as well is not, it's like, it's so much more linear and so much more simplified, and like all of it feels centered around the narrative they're telling and this quest to go take out this Order of Ancients guy. The Vinland is such a well-structured arc, and I love it.
Do it in about 20 minutes if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to rush about and do fuck all for about 2 hours.
And your exploration feels rewarded too. Like you've got those things that are left by the sage that was knocking about.
Because and then also
I wouldn't even call it linear, James. I don't think
because
linear
you can't
is the
bring
right
your
word
gear
to use.
You know? Because you can't bring your gear, it feels like it's rewarding in itself. You can't bring your gear, and you can't take the gear with you back. It's like a gear set for that arc that you get as you go. There's not too much of it. It's just this will help you if you have it, and if you don't, you might be in trouble. You need to get some. So you can either go straight and do your target if you know where to go, or you can fuck about, get everything that you need to, and then slowly but surely build up what you need, and then do it. But it feels like it's rewarding because it's not, oh look, here's a sword, but here's a better sword.
Here's a sword of Eden.
Here's the sword of Eden. Here's Excalibur just randomly chilling in a cave in Canada. Or here's Mjolnir. No, there's none of that. It's just what's there. You know, you've got this now. It'll help you. You know what I mean? And you can go and get that, or you can just go straight to find. I forget what his name was.
Gorm was his name. Was his name Gorm?
Gorm. Yeah, Kjotve's son.
Yeah.
And you find him. He's like looking at this apple, going something Sky Woman, something.
It's not an apple. It's a crystal orb.
It's an orb. Yes. But obviously, the elephant in the room in the Vinland arc is the Grand Temple.
Okay, well. Okay. What's the difference? What's the difference between an apple and a crystal orb?
The difference is the crystal orb just contains a message that Juno left, whereas an apple has the whole can control minds, create illusions.
That makes much more sense. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
I just love how I don't know why I love it, but I love how Eivor leaves the orb with them, and it's in AC3. Oh god.
Yeah, like that.
I'm a sucker for shit like that.
That was my favorite arc. Looking back, that's to me the best arc of the game for so many reasons. I don't think changes the word linear, and I know what you're saying, but I think that's a bad word in the sense of it's not linear. It's more of a traditional Assassin's Creed open world game. It's more of a Black Flag, where you've got the world there and there's stuff to do and it actually rewards you in what you're doing, but there's not a lot of fluff around you. What you're doing actually is about the story and it is focused. And I knew going in, my predictions before the game was that we'll see the Grand Temple because we're going to North America. I was like, there's no other reason North America's in the game. We have to see the Grand Temple. There's going to be some connection there, especially if this end of the world plot's coming back. Now, it didn't have some big effect on the modern day really at all, which is a little disappointing, but it was really cool to see, and then it tied into 3. The best thing Valhalla did was actually make Assassin's Creed 3 look better than it did, in my eyes.
God.
And that's how I feel.
This is coming from AC3
I
follower.
really yeah, mate, the AC3 follows back.
I'm not following AC3 anymore.
With an AC3 update, and it's the Grand Temple, and how Connor and his village got the crystal orb, the cricket ball.
Yeah.
You could smash that
cricket
in theory,
ball.
you could smash it up.
Yeah, well, as soon as I heard June, I was
smash
like,
it?
fuck yeah, we're going to the Grand Temple.
No, it crumbles.
Yeah,
It
no,
crumbles.
it dissolves. Yeah.
It crumbles, well, that
because
is-
the message has been delivered already. Yeah.
Now that is fair enough. You know what I mean? But surely to Christ, at that point, it's been delivered at least 100,000 times by random people prodding it. It's in a box.
Well, isn't it activated by Connor's DNA?
It's not activated.
Juno's
I guess it is kind of activated. It allows him to enter the Nexus.
The weird, trippy state.
Yeah.
It's cool in the Vinland arc as well. You can hear Juno speaking. It's like Eivor hears Juno, although she doesn't make any comment on it again. Again, that's like a theme in Valhalla.
She does.
Does she?
Yeah, when...
All I remember is hearing...
Because Juno says
what did she say?
the calculations give us hope. And then Eivor looks at the Grand Temple and is like, this is not for me, and then walks away.
Yeah, that's not about the... That's not
some
in reference to Juno,
Ezio
though, is
tribute
it?
of I've seen enough for one life, but it's I actually haven't seen anything. I don't know shit.
Actually, this is so.
This is not for
so
me.
I spoke to Darby recently, right? And I asked him, where does Vinland actually take place in the game? And he said, it honestly might come after the epilogue arc. It might be the very last thing you should do. Because you don't have to play Vinland to complete the game. And if you do it after you've banished Odin, Odin won't show up in the confession with Gorm. And he said it's one of the last things he wrote, and he may have subconsciously in there been sort of writing very conclusively. And the way that Eivor is very open to the people that he meets there, and the way he gives the story as well, which is very reflective.
She.
Oh yeah, she. Sorry, I played the whole thing as a male, so it's difficult. But she.
I love
She gives the whole the story about the Norse story and everything. And honestly, it makes so much sense. I think on this replay, I'm gonna do it as my very last thing. To see how
I
it
will
feels.
as well next time I replay it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and
the arc at the end, like the Vinland one, just right at the end, just bam.
Yeah, and I think as well,
after the epilogue,
he said that it didn't really make sense for Eivor to leave for months when they were in the middle of pacifying England and building up the settlement. So really, it only makes sense to do after the end, which is interesting.
That's a really good point.
Can't you do it while Sigurd is still in prison?
You can, yeah, you can. You can do anything. You can go fight Excalibur while he's fucking in prison. You can go fight the fucking daughters of Lyrion.
I love that you can go scrap the daughters of Lyrion, get Excalibur, fuck his wife, and then get off to Vinland. I love that
Big Chad Eivor.
I love that you can do all of that while Sigurd is strapped to a chair getting his arm cut off by some sadist.
Yeah, Fulke's prodding him, what can make you tick? What can make you fucking go crazy?
And to top it all off, while Sigurd's doing that, you can do hard drugs and go to fucking Asgard.
Yeah.
You can go speak to the white moose.
The white elk, the white elk.
Oh yeah,
best character in the game. Oh man,
I am the white elk. I hate that quest, but
I
love
it. It showed up and you're like, oh, okay.
I actually really like that quest, and I know I shouldn't. Everything in me is telling me no. This is so Odyssey, but I love it.
I like the moose.
It's so
and elk.
absurd because it does it. The reason why you can overlook it is because it's not necessarily telling of everything else you'll find in the game. Whereas in Odyssey, when you're playing one really, really bad day and everyone's dying in funny ways for comedic effect, and Cassandra's looking at a dog going, "I've seen some shit in my life, but
that was brutal.
That tops it off.
Wow,
that was brutal." Sort of thing. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's really telling of the game's approach to tonal inconsistency.
Oh man.
Whereas in Valhalla, the tone is serious shit gets taken seriously. This you're on drugs, you know what I mean? You have to be on drugs for it to get this done.
Yeah, you're on some like mental shrooms.
Though to be fair though, the world events in the game will often go down the silly route.
Yeah. Oh,
I didn't do
design.
many of those. Well, I did one.
The one
I did all. I think I've done all of the world events over the course of various streams just to see what they
Holy
were.
fuck.
And I realised something that was I've realised something, right? In Odyssey, you've got one extreme, and in this, you've got another. In Odyssey, you have too many side quests, things that shouldn't be side quests being side quests.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And that's the only thing in the world to do besides from forts and caves and battlegrounds.
Yeah.
In this, you don't have any side quests besides from maybe searching for somebody in the camp. So not the camp, the settlement every now and then. You've got the occasional thing that pops up, sure. But for the most part, you don't have any side quests, really. Everything's main story. Or you've got world events where you go and do these like 15 to maybe 90-second just things that you can do in the world that don't derail you too much. And it's the extreme comes in when you realise that you need a balance between actual fleshed out side quests that take a while and give you some form of narrative experience to enjoy and appreciate and get used to a character in a story and stuff like that. And then in the world events, then you can have those are the things that don't necessarily cut it. And I think in that because they don't do that and everything's a side quest, and I do understand why it had to go that way, to be fair, but at the same time, it becomes a point where there are things there that could have been more but weren't. For example, there are a few occasions where you run into someone in the woods. One that I think was very recent was I was in the woods, I came across this woman singing or humming or whatever she was doing, and there were just corpses everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Like there was all sorts going on. There was like corpses, people writing letters and stuff if you look. And then you just leave the house and there's this woman singing about, and then she attacks you, and then you just kill her. And then that's it. Bam. Serial killer done.
And it's a stupidly silly, over-the-top scene as well.
You want to know what? You want to know what I love about? Now this is where I'm going to give Amir a big throbbing erection because I'm going to relate it to Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, yeah.
I knew it.
There's a serial killer in that game called Edmund Lowry Jr. It's a reference to Eddie Lowe from GTA 4.
Yeah.
But there's an actual serial killer quest with it called American Dreams. Well, side mission, shall we say? You can come across this 3 ways because there are 3 bodies that you can find in different parts of the map. These bodies are dismembered to fuck. And usually in them somewhere is a clue that's trying to lead you towards the killer, that the killer wants you to try to find him.
Yeah.
You know? So once you find all 3 clues, you get a map. It says on the back, "Can you find me?" And then on one side you've got a map that just shows, it's not a map really, it's just a marker on an entrance to like a cellar in the woods. So near Valentine you go to this entrance that sort of lines up with what's there. You go down, there are corpses everywhere, you've got letters in one room, you can read loads of stuff. There's a letter drafted up to be sent to a newspaper talking about how you shouldn't be writing about this killer because this guy's clearly very dangerous, etc. It's obviously a load of ego tickling from the killer, if you know what I mean. It's like just plays into that a little bit. And there's another letter from, I think, the killer's mum or something that you can read there as well. And you can just see the brutality in this, the extent of that. You get into the next room and you get knocked out by the guy. You wake up, you're laying there, and then you just throw a decapitated head at the man and knock him out. And then you take him back to the sheriff, and then you've turned in a bounty and get paid for it. Depending
That's
on
a
whether
whole
or not
experience.
it's an experience to have. Whereas a world event, which is it works sometimes, but the world event can be over in a matter of minutes, and you don't have that experience of wow, I want to learn more about this. Well,
it's not like I'm gonna find this myself. It's just
there was one really, really cool one that I think would have been so much better in that format as well in Valhalla. Like what happened was I came across this hermit man sitting at the side of the road. He had a hood on and all that stuff, and I spoke to him, and he said something about a couple of guys asked him for directions, and and that they went that way or something, and he hasn't heard from them since. He just heard noises. So you go in there, and they're all dead. They're all dead by mysterious means. So you investigate and try to find out what happened, and then you just get like this. You know how you sometimes have those investigation scenes where it just shows like Eivor reconstructing everything that's going on,
Yeah,
and it just shows all sorts. It basically shows one theory that Eivor has where they've been poisoned or something. Then it shows another theory where that guy from the road was just sat in the tree. And it says maybe something else, maybe some other fate befell these men. This bloke in the tree, just looking down at them. You go back to the road, and the guy's gone. And I'm thinking to myself, that was cool. Could have been so much more.
Yeah.
If it just had that detail and depth. They don't all need to have that detail and depth. Some of them can be fun and silly or whatever the fuck you want them to be. Some of them can be, whatever, because that's just there to fill the world a bit. But sometimes you do actually need to go and tell a story that you find in the world properly, like you see in games like Red Dead Redemption 2, where you just go there, you don't expect to find a story, but you can. In fact, a lot of that isn't even structured in quests. In Saint Denis, you can hunt down a literal fucking vampire, and a lot of players would never know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like most of the little side things in Red Dead Redemption 2,
they're there for
like
you
I
to
haven't
not
heard
notice.
of ever. Yeah, like I only found out about the other day about the rapist, like little side activity.
Oh yeah,
thing.
no, that guy's in the swamp.
Oh,
He's like,
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
that
come in,
shit's
you walk in,
terrifying.
knock him out, and then you wake up outside with your cores drained. Then you've
Yeah,
got
it's
the Aberdeen
fucking horrible.
pig farm, which is
Yeah, the Aberdeen pig farm's good.
to an incest couple, and you just have Arthur's face go, what the fuck? You see, it's stuff like that you find, and it can go in a load of different ways because it's not tethered to, say, being a quest or a mission, and it's not tethered to being a world event, and there's no identity to it, and there's no marker to tell you what exactly it is. Like, when I say identity, I mean identifier, sorry.
Yeah.
And so it's just there and could be literally anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I think
that's-
Valhalla tried to do that, but
It's not quite what it did. What it did is it gave you loads of locations to go to as points of interest.
yeah, it's like a primitive version of it.
It's a fledgling idea, but I think it should become more of there's something here to find, but we won't tell you where it is. You'll just come across it, and it will be like a little story or something. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it will be a one-time thing. Maybe it will be a mystery that you'll unravel as you go without realizing. Maybe it will be something else. There needs to be more versatility to it all. It doesn't need to be just one extreme or the other. There needs to be a diverse range of things that you can do in this world space that actually feel worth doing, and then you can justify having a massive open world, really, can't you?
Yeah, and
you
I
can.
think as well with these world events, Ubisoft don't like to do anything that takes you out of the open world for too long. They used to be able to even make like linear sections, but
Oh,
for
God,
some
I love
reason
those,
now
like, Brotherhood
they're
and stuff.
like, if anything
I love a
takes
good set
you,
piece.
if anything takes you out of the open world we've built for too long, it's bad, and you can't do that. So they're like, well, a
Yeah.
world event, we could send you down this path of figuring out this mystery, but then you're going to be taken out of the Viking fantasy, so we can't have that. So
It's not even a thing they have to sacrifice. Like, you get taken out. But let's refer it back to Red Dead again, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
You get taken out of the world of Red Dead Redemption 2 for one chapter in the story to further the story.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, you're left in this open world and you find these things in it. They're just a part of
Mm-hmm.
it. They're just a natural part of it. It doesn't necessarily have to conform to set pieces. I loved set pieces in Revelations, had some brilliant ones.
Oh, yeah,
Brotherhood had
it-
some great
Oh,
ones, some
yeah.
of which I didn't even know
Spain in
existed
Brotherhood
until
was
recently.
brilliant.
Yeah, there's some mad set pieces that were proper good. You don't always have to be in this world space, but you don't have to sacrifice that open world to have something like that feels concise and deep.
Mm-hmm.
You
I think the open world has to lend itself to stuff like Red Dead 2's method of like telling side quests, though, and none of the Assassin's Creed worlds have. And
No,
to be honest,
because
I'd love
it's
to be
just
proven wrong, but I don't think they can do it with Assassin's Creed. They just don't have the vision that Rockstar has. It's just not the same. Like I think Rockstar is unbeatable personally in terms of open world games at the minute. And I don't think Assassin's Creed is the series to dethrone them. I'd love to be proven wrong.
I mean,
Love
when looking at it from the outside, I agree in the sense that I don't think Assassin's Creed will ever live up to that standard of open world storytelling. But there's no reason why they can't
try. Yeah.
Try. You know what I mean?
No, definitely, I agree.
And I don't feel like at the moment that they're not trying to be Red Dead. They don't have to try to be Red Dead or Grand Theft Auto or whatever. They don't have to try to be The Witcher, which is something that you need to drill into their heads.
Yeah. Stop trying to be the fucking Witcher 3.
Stop it.
You don't
I'm sick
have
of them
to try
trying
to be
other
games.
other
You know what
people.
you should be?
Yeah,
Assassin's
be yourself,
Creed.
Yeah,
You know
man.
what I mean?
Exactly, and you wouldn't need to worry about these random world events if you stopped making entire countries your fucking map. A city is enough. a dense
Yeah,
city, a dense urban environment. That's fucking Assassin's Creed with meaningful movement through that space. That's what the game should be about. And if you want to throw some side content in there, go for it, but make sure it aids the story that you're telling, because Assassin's Creed has never been, or shouldn't have been, at least when it began. It wasn't this open world, open choose what you want to do experience. Sure, there was an open world there, and you could go through it and you could choose to do other things. Everything in that open world, though, served the story that was being told, and the story guided the open world content. It was split up into chapters through memory sequences. Every time you open up a new memory sequence, a different part of the world opens up and you get more side content. Sometimes stuff will be closed to you from memory sequence because there's particular stuff that you can't do there. It's a very linear game. It's maybe an evolution of something like a Mafia 2 almost, where it's definitely more open than Mafia 2, but Mafia 2 is always about it's open world that you can go and explore, but it's split up into chapters.
It's more of an elaborate backdrop.
Yeah, for sure. And Assassin's Creed's more than that. But, you know, if you look at Assassin's Creed 1, that game was just the main story missions, and the cities existed there to be the space that you did those within. And they were like big Hitman levels, really. Like, a bit more simplified than that, obviously. It was not as developed as like a Hitman, but when you've got these big cities, you go into Jerusalem, and then that's your environment. Like, what do? You've got to go do viewpoints, so you find the investigations, you do those, it gives you information about your targets, you go speak to the bureau leader, you take out your target using the information that you learned, and then you escape from the city. And like, that's the mission that you do, and that's what the world exists there for. And I just think that like with Valhalla, they wanted to do so much in this game at once that I think the world at some points loses purpose. And there was an article that I retweeted about, and it was a bit of a meme. I was joking a little bit about the negative space in the world, and that sometimes there's absolutely nothing to do for loads of time, and it's this big open space, but that's brilliant. And that's what they were saying. And I understand negative space and the way that it works and the way that it can be valued in open worlds, like the deserts in Origins are fantastic, for example. But I think that there's a point where negative space can become too much, and there are points in Assassin's Creed Valhalla where I would hit follow road, go to objective, and I would sit and look at my phone because I didn't care. There was nothing there, and like the novelty of this world's gorgeous wears off after a bit, and the world is so big that is an issue. And when you play Red Dead, for example, I never felt that, though. I always felt like what I was doing was engaging. If I say I was riding,
there was no follow the road.
Yeah, exactly. You had to engage, but then they had to think engaged. Like Rockstar had to think. Well, you can't just sit and follow the road. They are going to be engaging in this travel.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
what can happen when you go from A to B? We need something
People will
there,
show
right?
up.
Yeah.
People will show up. You have to avoid other horses, stuff like that. If you don't, you'll just get sent flying. You have to keep your head on the game, and then every now and then, someone will come up with, like, I've been bitten by a snake, or people will try to rob you. You'll get to a bridge, maybe there are some O'Driscolls or some other bandits that just like there with their guns ready to, do you in, or maybe
like someone's trying to like race you because they like your horse or something like that.
Race you, or maybe there's a guy who wants to challenge you to a shooting contest, or maybe you come across one of the side missions. Like, for example, you could come across a couple of people who ran off a chain gang. You can come across some, like I said, the serial killer thing. That one you find right outside Valentine, usually really early. Stuff like that. It's always there. There's always something. Sometimes you'll be in a town and you'll be drawn to something, like a serial killer prostitute in Valentine, or, like I said before, writing on the wall in Saint Denis that leads you to a vampire, or some house, but there's a window that you can climb through. So you go on through, and there's a laboratory in here with like some man-made mutant thing. And there's just so much.
There's so much in Red Dead.
It's that systemic finding of things, and Assassin's Creed needs. And I saw Darby said this on Twitter, was that early versions of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, they had a much smaller world, and they were like, well, you were in Jorvik and you could see London, and that was weird. And it's like, not necessarily. I don't think there's anything wrong with scaling down the size of worlds if it benefits the engagement that the player finds. I don't need...
That's what they used to do.
Exactly. And I don't need...
Rome isn't one-to-one in Brotherhood.
Oh, not at all. Not even close. And I don't mind I don't need to be 10,000 meters from one end of the map to the other. It's unnecessary distance. Whereas when you're playing, look at, this is... So, you said on Twitter yesterday, George, about Black Flag and the way that they structure that world. It is not a scale recreation of the Caribbean. It's tiny compared to, real life. But the way that it's scaled feels so perfectly made. They don't try and make it the biggest yet, and a lot of it is negative space in terms of water, but there are stuff you can do. You'll always find ships, or you might find a shipwreck where you can go diving, or you might find a little island or something like that, or you've got these bigger spaces.
Do you think though the way that technology has actually hurt Assassin's Creed in that way? Because when you're playing Black Flag, the map sort of fades away so you can't see it. Whereas if you made Black Flag now, you could see from one end to the map to the other. Would that change that feeling, you think?
What do you mean?
No, I don't think it'd change anything about Black Flag personally. Like, if I could be on one end of the map and look all the way to the other with this crazy draw distance, I think that'd make it even better. Because I could look to the other side and I'd be like, I can go there if I want to, but I'm not going to go there right now. I'll go there later. Like, I like seeing things in the distance and going, I can go there. Not necessarily a map that's so big where I'm like, fucking hell, I'm going to have to like ride for like 17 minutes to be able to get to the other side. I want something that feels massive, but doesn't take a ridiculous amount of time out of my day for me to travel around, because then I'll just use fast travel and it's not fun. Like, it completely defeats the point of an open world.
At the moment, Assassin's Creed cannot function without fast travel, but there was a time where fast travel was a thing that you might have been able to do, but only in a limited way. Like, you had the tunnels in Brotherhood, or you had, or you could just hop on a carriage in 2 with the menu thing there. It's always been somewhat menu based, but you see what I mean. And the same with Revelations, and in 1, I think you literally had to you could only travel from Masyaf to the 3 cities and to their gates, or to the Bureau, and that was it. And, fast travel used to be very limited. Now it's every single viewpoint, and it gets to a point where it's like, well, maybe that's the reason why that's so essential now, is because the world's so big and so full of not very much when you think about it, at least compared to its size. I'm not saying there's nothing to do in Valhalla. There's a lot, but often that still doesn't necessarily complement the world size. Yeah. In the sense that you don't need to have this massive open world full of nothing with the 90-second stories every now and then. Just get rid of the massive open world. Focus on a game that doesn't make you want to fast travel. Yeah. Because if an open world can make you not want to fast travel, you don't find yourself fast traveling very often in Red Dead. Yeah,
I never fast travel in Red Dead Redemption. Or like,
I didn't know you
Ghost
could.
of Tsushima.
You could, in Red Dead, you have to go to
like train or carriages, right?
You could go by train or
carriages. It's all contextual, yeah, but I don't like using fast travel in Red Dead because it takes me out of that immersion, whereas in Valhalla I don't care. It's like, I just fuck it, I'll fast travel to the city because I can't be asked to ride over green hills again. I've seen so many of them.
Exactly. So what the focus should be on for the open world is making one that you don't want to fast travel through, because if you fast travel, sure, the option can be there, you will miss stuff, you know what I mean? Whereas you don't feel like you will in Valhalla, and often you don't. Like, you always know where the things are going to be. There's no unscripted timing event where something happens and you're like, oh shit, what's going on there? Maybe the occasional. Well, this is quite funny actually. I've noticed it as like a trend with a lot of open world RPGs is their idea of a random event happening in the open world is just wolves attacking you.
Yeah, or like bandits coming out of a bush and going, get him!
This is for my brother!
Bandits showing up like, you killed my brother! And it's like, how many brothers have I killed?
All of them.
Fucking hell.
All of them.
How many brothers do you have?
It's the same guy every time. Like, fuck's sake, you killed another one.
Like, you killed another one of my boys, man.
Oh my god. And I think as well, the thing that is an issue with the world size as well is the movement through it isn't that interesting. Like, when you play Assassin's Creed 1 to Brotherhood Revelations, the movement through those world spaces is so fucking engaging because of the complex range of advanced movement that you have. And the way that as you're moving, so say you're playing Brotherhood, as you're moving through Rome, you are learning the parkour system as you go. You're trying to figure out, how can I make this even more efficient? How can I make this quicker? Like, what if I do a back eject here? Or what if I side eject from a wall run here? And those things, so it's a learning process as much as it is like a navigation process. And you're going through this urban environment. It's really fun. It's really engaging. And you're learning new ways to do it. When you're playing Valhalla, you are literally just riding along a fucking dirt path. And that's it. That's the whole fucking experience. And even when you're in a city, the parkour is so fucking limited. I don't know how a franchise that was created on this premise of having interactive parkour elements has become so watered down to the point where, like, it is one of the worst climbing systems I've ever fucking played. Like, it's so fucking slow. You have no range of
Dying
movement.
Light 1 is better, has better parkour.
Yeah, definitely. When you hop onto a wall in fucking Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you're locked to the wall. Unless you're low enough to do a back eject, which doesn't really throw you far enough backwards to eject onto another wall unless it's perfectly made. And I think that's something you can see is when the world design is perfectly made. If you look at the truth sequences where you're doing these climbing puzzles, it's so perfectly made that it actually is kind of fun. because
It is fun,
they've
yeah.
got these like blocks that are so close enough together that you can do a back eject. And you're like, wow, that felt actually satisfying to do. But the actual world itself isn't built like that. And the parkour system is just so shit. Like, it's just got worse and worse and worse since Revelations.
I don't know how they've made it worse.
Like,
yeah.
AC3 was like, oh, let's hold your hand a little bit more. You don't have as much control over your speed. Then, you know, they move on to Unity, where it's like, now all of the animations and everything is automated. So you can have control over your character, and you can drop off this wall, but let me just do a quick flip first. And then you move on to Assassin's Creed Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, where it's like, now literally it's just fucking climbing up a rock face.
Yeah, like, all you can do is climb. You can't vault. You can only vault inside for some reason. I don't know why they made that a thing.
I miss vaulting. You know, like one of the things that 3 brought to parkour that I really liked was the concept of that really stylish looking vault.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah,
faster.
like where Connor like flips over.
It was
Yeah,
fast,
it's cool.
fast vault
Keeps you moving.
Like you do a proper vault that would keep you moving, and that's one thing that at least functioned there. Now it doesn't feel like it's fluid. You know when you like chasing like a piece of paper or whatever that's got tattoo sheet that obviously
it's bad.
you can sometimes move, but at the same time it doesn't really complement it in the same way to chasing down sea shanties did, because, well, the game knows you're not going to catch up to it because the parkour doesn't work, so it just holds it at the end for you to catch it. So what was the point of the entire chase if you can't lose?
Oh,
So bad. Like,
I
we
didn't
need
even know
quick,
that.
snappy, like direct parkour. It needs to be A to B, not, oh, you're stuck to this wall and we're not going to allow you to back eject because there's nowhere for you to go, so you might die. It's like, no, let me fucking jump off if I want to.
Let me fail. Let
Yeah.
me fuck up. That's part of the experience. Like, the amount of times
Don't
in
hold my
AC1
hand.
when I was a kid that I would fuck up and jump off a wall, or I'd mistime a side eject or a back eject or something. And, like,
Yeah.
I get mad about it,
You learn.
but then you learn and you learn and you learn. And, like, when you watch me play fucking AC1 now, it's so fucking fluid because it's years
it's
of picking
sick.
up all of these things. Like, you start to memorize the maps too. Like, I'll be like, oh, this is a place where I know I can do one of those, like, controlled descent vaults that are in AC1, because I'm like, I know that there's enough beams here to do this because I've played it that much.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. And then you look at like the Assassin's Tombs from AC2, Brotherhood, Revelations, that just get better and better and better. And when you're playing those tombs in Revelations, it's like, it's so fucking good. And when you play it the first time, you might, it might be a little bit slow. But the more you play it, the more you play those levels, you can fluidly just go through this thing. And it looks so stylish and it looks so efficient and it's so fun.
No, that's one thing.
And it's like, they lost that. And I don't understand how.
In
It was
my
because it was back
countless-
when they used to design worlds and levels to complement
Yeah.
the parkour and not to complement their shitty RPG systems.
Yeah, my countless replays of Assassin's Creed 2, those tombs are really telling of, how far my ability with the game has come as well, because the first time around when I played it, however long ago it was, I wasn't very good at it, and I did get frustrated with those tombs a lot because they were getting the better of me. Whereas now it's literally, I know how this bullshit works, I'm going to do it, and then you get your head around it, and the system works. The system functions. It's not as influid as it might seem at first, and sometimes there's a little bit of blockiness, but it works, it functions, and the world knows how to keep it functioning, and
Exactly.
obviously it's really complemented. Whereas in Valhalla, it's just an A to B means to an end, not
It's a
as
slog.
opposed to a gameplay system in itself. And I'd say the same for the social stealth, really, in this game. It's a means to an end.
Oh,
It's
don't
not
get
a-
me started about the social fucking stuff.
Oh my god.
It doesn't work. It doesn't fucking work. The
there is-
AI is so
The monks,
shit.
the
There
monks
is a-
that all walk into each other and just spaz out. I don't understand.
How
Like,
do you perfect that in the first game and then make a game however many, like 14, 13 years later and fuck it entirely? It pissed me off so much. Like, if you go back to my stream and watch that moment when they just didn't work,
And you've got
it
people in
fucking
chat
broke
as
my
well
heart.
that are like, you're just bad. You're just doing it wrong. Just stop being dumb.
I'm not doing
It's
it
like the
wrong.
game is
Can you
just
see
broken.
them clipping through each other?
The thing is, though, the game
that
doesn't
was the
reward
build
you
up for me
being
to
patient.
the London arc. That was the build up to the London arc. Everyone's saying, "Oh, the London arc's so good. The London arc's so good. You're gonna love it."
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait. I was like, "Oh fuck, alright." I got to London, and like the first assassination stealth was just non-existent, not possible.
Oh.
Well, it's just like they just put you there on the fucking podium with them. You kill them, like, okay, that's cool, I guess. And then the other one's like an infiltration. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Get in monks. I'm like, fuck yeah. Got the hood on. The monks there. We walk in. Get detected instantly. Didn't even fucking work. I was like, well, fuck this game.
Yeah.
So bad.
Set the tone. I'm like, the London arc was whatever. Like, everyone talking about it. Fuck
See,
off.
the thing
It
is,
wasn't
right, with
good.
these, when it works, it's actually really fun.
cool.
But the
Yeah,
issue is
it's
that
really
it doesn't
cool.
work most of the time, and that's a fucking issue.
Which is the assassination that's like Tamir? No, not Tamir. Who's the dude in Jerusalem with the bow and arrow? Talal, yeah, that guy. The one that's meant to mimic that one with the kids. When you go and find her after she's ran away, you can infiltrate her little like
cool.
fort or whatever it's called with the monks, and that worked during my stream,
I
and
just
that was
chased her down
fucking
and
really
stabbed.
cool.
I just chased her down and stabbed before she
I
got
watched
away.
George do that one, and it was so satisfying to see, because I didn't do that. When I did it, I fucked up. I was fighting the guards that came in, and I threw my harpoon, but I accidentally hit her and pulled her off, and her body ragdolled to the other side of the room, and she died. So that was what happened there. So I never got to experience that. But when I saw George do it, it was really cool.
I assassinated her in the room. Yeah, no, it's the gameplay in Valhalla is the thing that almost certainly disassociates it the most from the identity of the gameplay in Assassin's Creed, obviously, because it's just so disconnected from what it used to be, because it's become more general and more, it needs to be an RPG that focuses on epic Viking battles and loot and all that stuff.
And damage numbers.
And all that. And I think I have the perfect clip from that game where I'm just literally, there's a table full of coins and I'm picking up loads of them, just one after the other. It's like you have to press the button, and that's what Assassin's Creed has become from, just a more focused stealth game that gave you things to interact with in the world, but not in a way that made it so, look, loot, like, oh no, crowd, blend, bench, sit, haystack, hiding, or whatever. You can hide in haystacks, but I don't see what benefit
Honestly,
it has.
don't need to use them though.
I rarely
There's
use
no
them,
general there's no general flow to the crowds that allows you to wait for a moment where you can come out and actually do something. If you're in there and it's surrounded by guards, you get out and you have to scrap, you know what I mean? There's nothing else to do.
Well, for some reason they got rid of social stealth in normal crowds. For some reason, it's like, you can do it with monks, but you can't do it in normal crowds.
I think
that defeats the point.
I understand what they were doing, right, with that, and it's because and this is something I love about AC1, and they definitely tried to replicate it, but I just don't think it worked. And the reason it works is because of the detection system not having 3 tiers to it, I think. But when you're playing AC1, a lot of the social stealth doesn't come from, and I think AC2 simplified this because they were just social stealth is just you walk into a crowd and you're invisible. Whereas in AC1, it all depends on your movement and the way that you act in the game. So if you're running, then you're going to have, and later in the game, guards are just going to come after you because you've got the little detection meter or the little awareness meter, and it's like, okay, so if it's yellow, it means that, I maybe shouldn't do anything, but you can get away with it. Then if it's red, it's like, okay, you got to make sure you're moving slowly, you're maybe even blending, go sit on a bench, go do something, because someone's watching you, and as soon as you go high profile, they're going to come after you and they're going to get you. So you got to pay attention to the way that you're perceived moving around this world. And Valhalla, I get it, and it tries to do that, and sometimes it can be really, really cool, but other times it's just they're trying to work with... It's a bit
difficult to do when the default movement is...
Exactly, and as well, there's no chase mechanic in this game. The game assumes you want to fight all the time. As soon as you get guards coming after you, the game is like, you want to fight, right? Let's get your fucking weapons out. Let's get you fighting. It's no, I don't want to fight. I want to run away. It's there's no dedicated chase mechanic. There's no breaking the line of sight, which is a huge part of Assassin's Creed. The whole line of sight mechanic was so fucking cool as a concept that you have to break the line of sight.
But James, how can this be important when there's not even assassins in the game? What the fuck do you expect? There's literally not even assassins in the game. What do you want? What do you guys want from this?
Yeah.
How can you expect gameplay of being an assassin when there's not even in the story that you're playing as an assassin? None of this matters anymore. What you're explaining doesn't matter. How can the gameplay matter when the story doesn't matter either? You can't have one without the other.
It'd almost be more jarring if Eivor used more assassin techniques, even though she never even shows any interest in the assassin philosophy or the order or anything like that.
But see, Edward does it.
She doesn't even ask about it.
Before.
Well, Edward does do it.
But Edward actually learns how to be an assassin and then realizes his mistakes and develops, and the end arc pays off of him becoming an assassin.
Yeah, no, I know that, but I'm just saying, even beforehand,
what this should have been.
Edward does assassin things before becoming an assassin, or even knowing what they are.
And that's why, for me, I think it makes it a little bit... I'm a little bit more lenient with Eivor doing stuff like that, because if Edward can do it, Eivor can do it as well. It doesn't really matter that much, but at least Edward goes through that metamorphosis in his character, whereas Eivor doesn't, or at least she hasn't yet. I still think she will.
I honestly don't think she will.
But who cares?
They don't do it, though.
You can't seriously be hoping they do a DLC.
I think, what you say, Tyler?
There's no point. Fuck off. I just don't see why George is hoping that happens DLC. Fuck that. That'll piss me off more. And you're right. I think they are going to do that. I think they are going to make a DLC.
If they do that, then that's cool.
Hey, you know what?
I don't think they will.
Fuck you.
But also at the same time, like,
Why is it
I'm not playing it. I literally haven't turned on Valhalla. Like, I recorded my reaction to the epilogue. That is the last time I'll play Valhalla.
It broke you.
I was like, I'm done. I don't want to play a. This
is kind of.
I don't want to play a second.
It's kind of weird
game.
though, because Odyssey is so much worse, but you didn't hate that much.
Yeah, you fucking 100%ed it, you mad guy.
Yeah, I did.
Tyler's a fucking Odyssey shield.
Yeah.
It's fucking good, boys.
Well, okay. Now, here's the thing. When the DLC came out, I played like the first episode of the fucking
Legacy of the First Blade.
Shit, Legacy Blade, yeah.
Legacy of the First.
Yeah, whatever. I played the first. I played that episode, and then I was like, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm never playing Odyssey again. I've never played Odyssey since."
Yeah.
And
after the DLC,
I think I was just like, it was just, I think in some ways Odyssey was just so mundane and whatever. Whereas like, I think Valhalla was just like, I think I just had high expectations of Valhalla.
Right. Yeah.
Higher expectations of Valhalla.
Yeah, I guess so, because it was all like the line.
Because I'm like, I expected Quebec to do what they did, but I'm like, no, this is the team that can give me what I want. And this is what I've written this, and I'm editing my Valhalla. I wouldn't even call it review, but it's like
critique.
My statement.
Yeah.
At the end,
It's like
which
a
is like, my feelings on it. I say in it, I'm like, if this team can't give me my Assassin's Creed game, no team can. So I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done, and that's it.
That's
like
fair enough.
if Derby and what was Ash's team or that that group that made Black Flag and Origins, I mean, if you can't give me this, no one can. I can't go on playing, like, hoping one day I'll be an assassin.
What if Patrice Desolé and Jay
I don't
Raymond
even give a shit anymore. I don't even. And Odyssey's a part of it. Odyssey's a big reason this franchise has gone where it's gone. But there's so many layers to it. But ultimately, like, every single one of these games has been another nail in the coffin, and this just happens to be the last one for me. I'm like, I'm not even disappointed. Like, I'm not even that disappointed. I'm like, oh, whatever.
You're just
like,
accepting that it's done. Yeah. You'll run with this series over.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the run, and I'm still gonna replay the first 4 games plus Black Flag. Like, I love those games. I'm still gonna replay them. The Ezio trilogy. The Ezio trilogy is my favorite trilogy of any game ever. My favorite video game character of all time. I still love those games. AC1, fucking masterpiece. I still want to play those. I still want to, like, talk about those games.
Yeah.
When the next Assassin's Creed comes out, I want to be a part of the spoiler cast. I'm not going to play the game, but I'll watch, like, the main points of the story and give my thoughts. I'm like, I can't believe they fucking did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll watch just, like, the ending or, like, some key character moments. I'll watch parts of you guys streaming it. I'm not going to play the game. I don't want to play the game. I'd rather play something else. I'd rather spend my time making a video about, like, a real-life history thing in Assassin's Creed than have to play it myself. Because I can't spend 200 fucking hours playing these games anymore. It's a waste of my time. It's literally a waste of my time. I felt like I wasted my time.
On the condition that Assassin's Creed remains as it is. Like, if by some miracle Assassin's Creed made a game that was something you wanted, would you still just not play it?
No, I can't do it anymore.
Well, even if it was exactly what you want, you just wouldn't play it.
But it's not. Let's not pretend it's ever going to be that. It's not. I've accepted that. You need to too. It will never, ever be what I want it to be. I have finally accepted that. It will never, no matter what anyone fucking tells me or honeydicks me, it will never be what I want it to be. It's over. It's been over for so long, and it's taken me this fucking long to drill it in my own fucking head because I had these little bits of hope. There's none. No one will write it. No one will make a game where you can have good fucking parkour, good getting out of the line of sight when you get chased. Action playing stuff. It's never going to happen. It will never fucking happen.
Watch the next game come out,
and I've accepted
that. And he plays it, he caves, and everyone goes, "Oh, Tyler, what are you doing?" He goes, "Vector the Meta is on my fucking side."
It's just, I've accepted it will never happen.
I understand your frustrations.
I'm not getting hopes
I honestly understand your frustrations.
It's not even frustration anymore. It's not even frustration anymore. It's not even. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care anymore. I hate to say that, my fucking line, but
I don't care. I'll tell you.
I don't care. I'll tell you.
I don't care. I've got all tell you.
It doesn't matter anymore.
Because I think me and James are just such AC shields.
I can still talk to you guys.
And I think
I can still talk to you guys about Assassin's Creed and jump on a spoiler cast by just watching fucking YouTube clips, because I've got enough Assassin's Creed experience that I can have an opinion on what they're doing.
That's true.
Without having to spend 200 hours wasting my fucking time.
Okay, I want to.
When I can spend 1 hour watching some key moments and be like, wow, I can't believe they did that. And I can spend my time on a Four Pillars podcast, spoiler cast, interviewing you guys, asking you questions about, oh, so tell me what you thought of this. Oh, did this happen? Oh, I didn't play it. So tell me about the gameplay. I can be like a bit of a moderator of a spoiler cast. I can still be a part of these discussions, but I don't want to have to spend 200 hours playing these. I would rather play a 30-hour Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Fucking
I'd rather, like...
I'm still yet to play it myself.
And all these other games, like a Spider-Man, Miles Morales, so Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. I haven't played any of these games, because I spent all my fucking November, December playing this bullshit game. And then making these videos on it. It's like, get fucked.
Valhalla is like Marmite, honestly.
It's one of those. It's
like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it.
Can we switch gears real quick? Because I feel like we have talked so much shit about this game, and there's a lot that we love.
Yeah.
Can we give some positives?
There's not.
I would love to give
Tyler,
some
Tyler, you can sit this one out.
I'll
see you
sit
later.
this one out. I'll sit this. I feel like I've been sitting out.
Just leave now.
I feel like I've been sitting out already for quite a bit, because I'm just like, I'm just setting up our iTunes and Spotify and SoundCloud for this podcast right now. Because I'm like, I might as well do that, because I don't care about the side. I'm not going to play any of it. Fuck off. Like,
I just fully upgrade your town. Fully upgrade Ravensthorpe.
I've already talked. I've already talked about my positives. My positives all became negatives based on the ending. So you guys.
No, I think here's Tyler's issue, right? Is he didn't get the 6 out of 6 upgrade Ravensthorpe to get the Isu longship schematics, and I think that's the issue.
Yeah, that'd have done it.
He would have loved it.
That's definitely the reason.
Isu longship schematics.
Oh, they exist.
Oh, what? They actually
they actually exist.
I
didn't think they did.
Man.
I was so once you get 6 out of 6 settlement level, you can go to the trading shop in your settlement and they just sell them.
Right, I'm gonna do that right now. Fuck it.
Yeah.
In fact, no, I'll do it in a bit. Fuck
all right,
that.
we need to talk about positives, because that was one big fat dirty negative dropped on me that I didn't know existed.
Yeah, right. Okay, positives. Let's start with the introduction of the game, and I think that there are some really nice moments in this introduction. I love the introduction of character. I think that the introduction of Eivor, I think Sigurd's introduction is brilliant. The way they introduce Ramvi, all those characters, they feel like people, and I love that. And the way they then introduce Basim and Hytham onto that as well, and their introduction is really interesting. The whole assassin philosophy and that stuff, like learning from Basim. We know it doesn't go anywhere, but that itself is really cool.
Yeah, it's an enclosed concept.
The conversations are great, and I think that is something that Darby nails, is making you care for these characters that reoccur throughout the game, which is something that we've not had in a while in Assassin's Creed. And
yeah, it's cool.
Conversations between meaningful, real humans, and I love that about it. And I think the introduction really sets that up and leads you into that the moment when they leave for England and they're on the boat, and it's like it's this really great moment. And Assassin's Creed for years, I think, has tried desperately to emulate the Ezio trilogy, and I think Valhalla for the first time didn't try to do that. And I think that's what's so satisfying about that opening sequence and the
it feels like a
card.
New frontier.
Yeah, it's something new. It's way more subtle. It's not like, oh, here's the epic Ezio's family version of Valhalla playing while we have the epic title card over England. It's just you're just sailing out of Norway. The title card appears. You've got dialogue between friends and family, and this understated theme playing in the background as you leave and begin your journey. And I really like that, and I think it's done really well.
I love the title card drop, like the bit where it's like Sigurd, like glory. What's it again? What's the line that he says?
To
glory,
for
destiny,
glory, or Valhalla, or something like that.
Yeah. It's like Dag says, or Valhalla.
Yeah.
Which is a weird glitch you can get where he doesn't say that, which is weird. But I love that fucking. I love that introduction set. Like, that title card drop is one of my favourites for, like, since I don't even fucking know, to be honest. Like, the only ones I remember is, like, 2 to AC3, and the rest of them just sort of fade out of existence. But I love that title card drop.
I do really like Black Flag's title card drop, because that's very... I think where...
The title cards have become a little bit... they're just putting... You just sail off at this point, and then the title card shows up. You always seem to be on a boat. I mean, the past 2 games have been on a
That's true. I like.
Honestly, I don't remember the Odyssey one.
In Black Flag, I feel like they should have put the title card when Steed and Edward are talking, where he's like, "Your life seems a grand one, if I may say," and then he's like,
and then instead it's in Havana.
Yeah, when you just get there, it just pops.
Bloody fucking pirates!
It just seemed.
But yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, the introduction's great. I think.
I mean, yeah, no, that's nice. I like the introduction to Valhalla because it's quite because it doesn't start right away and bam, eagle bearing Mystios right out the gate. Mm-hmm. It's straight from the beginning. You're Eivor as a child. You start as a child. You start as this child. You go through this long house and you see everything going on. You even meet a few characters who you'll see, but they're older at that point and they don't.
Yeah, that's
the same.
cool.
And that's
like
cool.
That.
I think one of them was what's his name? The guy the blacksmith guy.
Oh fuck,
Gunnar.
What's his name? Gunnar.
Yeah,
who also is the focal point of one of the worst arcs in the game, but we don't talk about that.
I like that arc though.
But
yeah, you like. I don't know how you like Gloucester. I don't fucking know how you like it.
Listen, you get to go trick or treating.
I really don't know why I liked it because I shouldn't have, but I just did.
And it's got epic woman boss fight at the end, who you can just use the harpoon ability on and smash her head into a rock and she dies instantly.
You've got a lot of pent-up rage towards epic woman boss fight.
I just don't like the boss fights in Valhalla. They're shit, but we need to talk about positives again. I'll keep going to negatives.
George, can you three just accept the fact this game is fucking shit?
No, get out of here!
I love it.
About positive for 2 seconds.
You all talk
about your positives for 2 seconds, but you only like the parts about Valhalla whilst you're playing it. And then when you've looked back on it, you're like, oh yeah, but it all sucked.
No. That's not true.
So many parts about
there are
Valhalla.
things about Valhalla that I love and will always love. I have my issues that they don't feed into or connect to things the way I might have liked them to, but I still love those things regardless because they still exist the way that they did. And I think that as those isolated moments, they can still be great. It's like when you say in like The Last Jedi, which a lot of people don't like. Actually, kind of like it now. But the point being that throne room scene.
You what?
Just don't worry about it. I didn't say that. The throne room scene. Everyone loves the throne room scene, but then they say like, oh, but it's not really great in the context of everything else. But it's like, but it's still fucking brilliant, and I will love it every time I watch that film. And I think that's the way I feel about a lot of this stuff. But
yeah, same.
There's something that I know that I love just as it is a lot of the modern day in this game. Layla's laptop, I think, is just full of great shit, and it gives off those vibes of like an Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, where you've got all of these things that they feel meaningful and they have a lot of emotional weight to them. Like you've got those Desmond voice notes and those conversations, and not only does it add to Desmond's arc and the way that he was feeling emotionally during Assassin's Creed 3, but it also adds to fucking Ezio and like the concept that why did Ezio leave the Assassins? Well, all throughout Revelations he'd been conflicted, and then you've got this moment where Desmond says he had this bleeding effect moment where Ezio was standing on the deck of the ship after leaving Cappadocia, and that's when he had the decision to leave the Assassins. And that's why when he gets back to Constantinople, he breaks the fucking tenets of the Creed and is like, let's take the Assassins as a fucking army and I'm going to go avenge Yusuf, because he's fucking furious, he's sick of it, and he's already decided he wants to leave the Brotherhood. And I think that's incredible that it adds to that moment. Like, so when Ezio snaps and he takes everyone in and he's like, I'm just going to fucking kill Ahmet because I'm sick of this shit and I've lost too many people. You know why that is, and you understand the context and emotion behind it because Desmond's felt that, and I love that. I think it's terrific.
That's actually, and it also adds more depth to the bleeding effect as well. Something that I didn't know about that is that the person that's reliving the sort of memories can feel the emotions and understand the emotions of the ancestor as well. That's really fucking cool. That's something that's never delved into pretty much ever. It's just, you learn how to parkour like them.
Well, there was one time, and Darby's always tried to do this, and I really appreciate that, is the Subject Zero, was it Subject Zero? No, I think it was Subject 1 audio log in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. It was the man who was reliving the life of Aveline, and he talks about the way that he felt as a woman, and he's never really understood what it's like to be a woman, and he had this like newfound realization that, you know, there were points where she felt uncomfortable, like she would notice men looking at her and he would start to feel uncomfortable, and in his everyday life that has been then applied to him, like the bleeding effect. So he's got this conflict in his head of like always being on guard, always, you know, wondering what people might do to him, not feeling entirely safe and secure when he's on his own, and that is so interesting, and Darby's always done that, and I love that.
That's really cool.
And an idea of the bleeding effect he
Yeah.
played with in Valhalla in those audio logs with Desmond is the idea of, what was it? Hang on, I've got a note here. I wrote it down. What it's called? Where is it?
In your mass amounts of Valhalla minutes.
Identity substitution. So the more because he brings up this idea that the more lives he relives, his memory is going to start getting pushed out. Is he start thinking he's a different person, similar to Subject 16 getting confused and stuff. And that sets up the very ending where Desmond is no longer Desmond, he's the reader, because he spent so much time with the calculations. So he's had the identity substitution, because he does remember Desmond, but it's almost like a different person.
From a third-person perspective,
like,
yeah.
I've relived the memories of Desmond. Like, I'm not Desmond, but he is. And I think that's interesting. They set that up earlier on and go into, like, the concept of it, and, like, how does that work, and, like, you know, Desmond considering that all the way back in 2012, and I think that's really interesting there.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, it's I like the modern day, and there's a lot in the modern day that I really like. Can we take a moment to address that Basim is a furry? He spends 5 minutes in the modern day and becomes a furry.
Yeah, look, I would change the
Honestly,
t-shirt.
I think
can we change
playing
the
as
t-shirt,
Basim
please?
in the modern day, I thought it was cool because they're doing ballsy shit that other games haven't even dared to do in years. It also, to me, it doesn't make sense. And why the fuck would Sean and Rebecca trust him?
It made a little bit more sense than Cassandra in a cave for 2005.
Yeah, I think
It does.
I think it was set up nicely and it played into the story. And like I didn't, because when you see like the way the staff of Hermes was used, you know, in Odyssey, I just feel like it was used as a weird gimmick. But I feel like when you're looking at it in Valhalla, it's like almost it's been this part of Alethea and Loki's plan. And
it feels like a proper like a fursive artifact.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like just some spear that Layla uses to smash people.
Yeah, and it feels like it was used in the way it was designed.
Smash your mates
for.
upside the head across the room, and yeah, no, that was quite funny to be honest.
Yeah, they gave it a
and-
function.
Oh my god!
And
Also,
now it has a narrative.
talking
function.
about Layla killing Victoria, I love the way that they somehow made me like feel something about that in this game. When you go into the laptop and you go in like
there's a
trash,
drafted email,
and it's
for
like this email where she's like written it out and she just didn't finish it, didn't send it. I'm like, that's so
yeah,
cool.
that's really good.
That Darby,
Yeah, that's good.
doubled down on this dumb thing that happened, but like made it actually have like emotional weight and like character importance. And I think that's really cool.
And that shows how far it goes when you take a narrative seriously and you double down with things that you've done before instead of playing it safe the entire time and just not talking about stuff that happens in previous games, which is a massive problem of Assassin's Creed. They set up things in narratives and never pay them off because they're like, well, I don't know if we should do that because it might be too ballsy. Whereas I think Valhalla does a lot of stuff that they don't care about the consequences of it. They're like, fuck it, we'll do something ballsy and people can do stuff with that story later down the line. Instead of just playing it ridiculously safe like Odyssey, like Origins, where nothing happens for years. It's fucking... Yeah. I like it. I like it.
Especially modern day, and I really like that aspect of it and the way that they do little things here and there. I liked, the conversations with Sean and Rebecca. Despite Sean looking, I mean, both of them looking weird, but Sean looking especially weird.
To be fair, Rebecca looking weird isn't exactly news. Assassin's Creed 3. What the
I mean,
fuck?
Assassin's Creed 3
like a
Sean.
duck in that game.
Jesus. But yeah.
Oh god, they were dafties.
I liked all of that.
He's
stuff.
gone through the
I find it
motions.
hard
I
though
liked-
to look at any of the modern day stuff and get excited because they're doing ballsy shit. I'm like, yeah, but I already know none of the people that wrote this will get a chance to follow it up.
All we can
Like,
do
what's
is hope.
the point in getting invested?
I just,
No, what do you mean all we can do is fucking hope? That's what we've fucking done for years. That's the dumbest
No,
shit I've ever
no,
heard.
I get it,
All we
I
can do
get
is
it,
hope.
and, like-
Fuck you, George. You're smarter than that. Like, I'm like, why would I be
look,
invested?
Tyler, they
You either
might do
finish
it
your
good
story
next
now,
time.
Or
Yeah, you never know. What if they
Fuck,
bang it next
I
time?
still have
I've been
hope,
saying
Tyler.
this for 10 years. I've been saying this for 10 years. I can't do it anymore. I can't say maybe next time anymore. I can't
Maybe
say...
next time.
I can
well,
do that
maybe
for the
next
rest
time,
of my
but-
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
but
so can I.
honestly,
No, I can't.
I'm committed
can't
to
do
it at this
I can't,
point.
guys. I'm
Makes
so
me
done.
stacks of
I think,
I'm
cash.
so
I
over
think,
it.
I think I had
just,
this
like, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm like, but guys, why do you care that they've done this? Because unless they resolve it in this game in a good way, then it doesn't matter because they've just set up something that will not be resolved, or if it is, it'll be done terribly by one of the other studios.
Because it gives me hope,
it will
Tyler.
never get to be done. Hope for what?
Hopes for fucking gaming, bro. Hopes for gaming, man. I want epic gaming in the future.
I think
It's
I've
got to
just
happen.
stopped. Like, I think what really made me, because I went through this period when like Odyssey was coming out or whatever happened. I don't really remember, but
Or like after Syndicate came out.
and I
or
just
something,
like had this
really low period.
like I was just like, I just hate all of this and I don't want anything to do with it. And I think stepping away from it in terms of a focal point of my content really helped, because I can sit back and just be like, if Assassin's Creed's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. And I don't really care, and I'll critique it regardless, but like, it's not the focal point of my content, so it doesn't matter to me. So I can just I can focus on whatever the fuck I want to do. I can make the Witcher 3 retrospectives, I can talk about Horizon Zero Dawn, the Batman Arkham games, all that shit, and have fun and enjoy that stuff. But I can still then, give a shit about what's going on in Assassin's Creed, and it's so much easier for me to do when I don't have to make a video. So if the game is shit and it really is just that bad, I can just be like, this sucks, and then I can move on. It doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I'm in a similar position.
And so I think,
Like, if it doesn't matter one way or the other to me. Like, I'm not. I make money from it.
Yeah.
Regardless.
And if it's good, I'll enjoy it. Like, I loved a lot of Valhalla, and I love the modern day storyline, and I had great fun experiencing it and unraveling it, and like, that was great fun. Like, it felt so fun to me. Like, sitting on live streams and when I was going through the truth and like listening to the little like bits of audio from the Isu that would come through and like figuring out like, who's this guy who's saying that, how does that tie into the mythical arc, and like, it was just so much fun. Like, the fun I had with people in chat where I had like, fucking 1,000, 2,000 viewers, and like everyone was getting all hyped, and like I was trying to figure it out, and like, it was just so fun. It was this sense of community that I had so much fun with.
A sense of community that hasn't been felt in a long time.
Yeah,
at
and
least
like,
from me.
I love that I had to use my fucking brain with this game to figure it out as well. Like, it wasn't handed to me on a platter, and they didn't over-explain everything. Like, there are so many people that don't understand the game. They just don't get it. And I can understand why to an extent. And I think it's weird because it's a game where they did try to please everyone, but at the same time, if you've not been playing Assassin's Creed for years, the narrative's going to go right over your head, because they play with things that you have to know about, and there's so much going on there.
Half the time it goes over my head.
A big part of the ending, of which like people like, you don't get it, Tyler, is like, I actually think what's so ridiculous, because they're like, did you not play the mythical arcs? It's like, no, I did the anomalies, I did the mythical arcs. I actually 100% understood what was happening. What I didn't get, like, I literally, while playing the ending, couldn't process that. I'm like, wait, are they really, like, I thought it was over-explained. By the time I'd done the mythical arcs, by the time I'd done the truth, I'm like, okay, I get it. They all these different, like, Isu have reincarnated. But I'm like, surely that can't be what the story's about. This can't be what the ending's about. Where's, like, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I kept saying, wait, what's going on? Because I honestly could not accept, while I was playing it, that this is what was happening. I'm like, wait, the mythical arc, the anomalies, that whatever shit that I didn't enjoy, that's what this game's about? Like, that's what I've spent 100 hours playing for. Like, I couldn't accept it.
To be fair,
like,
if you understand the story of the Cataclysm, you don't have to play the mythical arcs. They're only there to explain the Cataclysm to people, really. It's just in a very nuanced way. And, like,
well,
honestly,
but it's also explaining, like, what's the beef? It's explaining why Loki wants revenge on Tyrion. Well, not even Tyrion, but Odin. Yeah. Which I'm like, but also I'm like, but okay, let's just be fucking honest with ourselves. Odin and Loki aren't fucking Isu. They're just made up ones for this game because they want to do a fucking Viking game. Like, let's make the Norse gods Isu.
You could say that about
Fuck
Minerva,
off.
Though, couldn't you?
Yeah, look, this is okay.
Isu.
I'm gonna with what Tyler's saying here. Let me explain, because a lot of people can be like, "No, Tyler, you don't get it." So let me just explain. This is an issue that I have with the Isu in this game, and it's the fact that, so when Isu were created, right, as the first civilization, the ones who came before this precursor race, it was an amalgamation of all of the beliefs of humanity across centuries and centuries and centuries of human history.
Yes.
And so, when you look at the Isu, you can see parts of Christianity, parts of Hinduism, Islam, parts of the Roman, Greek pantheon of gods, and it's an amalgamation of that. And so you can see parts in there like, oh, so Adam and Eve stole the apple of forbidden knowledge from Minerva and Jupiter and Juno, these Roman gods, and they're also known in a different pantheon as like the Greek gods as well. So like, that's where that came from, and that's where Christianity came from, and Cain and Abel and all of these things. And there's this connection, and like, oh, Eden exists and everything. And so you've got all these
It's all
biblical
one.
references and everything. Yeah, everything's all one. And so you can see that there was so many human beliefs that were derived from the Isu in different ways. Whereas
But they're
what
all
Valhalla
almost like
does,
pieces of the puzzle, aren't they?
what Valhalla does is it goes, well, there were Norse gods that lived in Norway, and there were Greek gods that lived in Greece, and there were Roman gods that lived in Rome. And it's like, what? So what you're saying is the beliefs of humanity are actually way closer to reality than they should be, and I don't like that. I would prefer, Odin shouldn't be called Odin. Loki shouldn't be called Loki. And, it's these things where, you've
That's
got,
what I found
Minerva
ridiculous. I just
says,
found it stupid.
they've got different names. Like, Minerva isn't Minerva, and, Juno's not Juno. They had different names across time, and, it was distorted and perverted by humanity's perception of these godlike beings. And what Valhalla does is almost a direct translation. The only difference there is they use futuristic tech. That's the only difference. And as well, they don't even really look like Isu. It's so weird that the Isu design has changed drastically from the early days of Assassin's Creed to what it is now. And the way that it's presented in Valhalla and the way that you learn about these Isu through the mythical arcs just makes them feel more like magical gods. Whereas everything you learn about them in Assassin's Creed 2 is... even you go under the... what's it fucking called? The Vatican. And but it doesn't feel like you're going under the Vatican and, you're finding this, Christian god or this Roman god or whatever. You go under the Vatican and it feels like a fucking spaceship. It feels sci-fi. It feels like you're out of time.
So good.
And I love that about it. And
because
the
Assassin's
way that
Creed was
the
a
architecture
science
of these
fiction.
Isu temples...
Sci-fi and fantasy are so different.
You what?
Sci-fi and fantasy are so different. There's such a difference of what it used to be with science fiction.
Yeah.
Meaning history to fantasy makes it feel ridiculous. It takes so much of the mystery away to me. It doesn't become mystery. It's like you've pulled the curtain back on who the Isu are and they're shit. There's no mystery to
and
them
I
anymore.
liked that there was that conflict between the architecture of the historical setting and the Isu feeling futuristic. It was out of place, and that was so interesting to me. When you go through the Vatican and you're seeing all of these Renaissance paintings, and you're seeing all of this Christian Roman Catholic architecture and design, and then you go through this door and it's just these stone walls with these symbols on and these big blue lights, and it's whoa, this is such a stark contrast. But when you're playing Valhalla, when you're playing these newer games, it's what they try to do, and I don't like it, is they try to inspire that particular Isu architecture off of the mythological beliefs of the people. So when you go into the Yggdrasil temple, there's a lot of cool stuff in there, and it does look cool, but a lot of it is very Norse-based architecture, and that takes me out of it a little bit. When you're playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey and you do the Fate of Atlantis, it's the Isu have Greek architecture for some reason, and it's
it doesn't make sense.
I don't like that about the Isu. I liked that the Isu had this very futuristic, very utopian architecture. When you see the truth and you're looking at Eden in Africa, and you've got all of these futuristic buildings, these winding towers that are bright white, and it's that doesn't look like Roman architecture. It doesn't look like Gothic Christian architecture or whatever. That's another thing. When you're playing Syndicate and you go to find the shroud, it's why is the architecture of this Isu temple all Gothic and weird look?
It's not like the fucking Isu 70,000 years ago predicted what it was going to look like at the time when people were living there, when the assassins went and got the piece of Eden. It makes
Gothic,
no sense.
Shall we? And then
it's
Jacob
weird.
and Evie Fleischer find the piece of Eden. I always explain that one as somebody built the Gothic architecture around it.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That was my logic that I assigned to that one. But the point is, there's a design choice that's clearly made to go, right, make this fit with the setting better.
I don't like
when
that.
In reality,
whereas the older games
when it
didn't
just fit, that's when you felt engaged and intrigued, and it's what the fuck is going on?
But it's also they're telling us that these Isu, it's so specific. It's but if you actually know the history of these Norse gods or anything like that, my fucking webcam has just disappeared. Sorry, lads. But if you know the history of the Norse gods, it's just retelling. It's like, oh, that's actually the Isu's history too.
Yeah, and that's what I don't
instead
like.
of it being like this alternate history.
Yeah, it's like the Isu's history used to be based
like
on...
it's literally Loki.
Yeah, it's
literally Loki. It's fucking
Literally, the
stupid.
gods existed exactly how people imagined them.
Mm-hmm. And that's what people have said. Like, you'll get these comments, right, and people will be like, oh, I don't like that this thing was slightly different from real Norse mythology. And I'm like, it shouldn't even be close. It shouldn't be. You could have... Maybe Odin was an Isu. Maybe there was an Isu called Odin. Maybe that's where that belief comes from. But he should not have done anything that Odin did. He shouldn't look like an Odin. It shouldn't be like that. Like, when you've got
the whole
Minerva...
point of Assassin's
Minerva
Creed was to...
nothing like the goddess. Like, Minerva was fucking part of this scientist group called the Capitoline Triad. She was figuring out ways to stop the world. She was reading these calculations. She was...
stop the world.
She was reigning over... all of these humans, like the Isu reigned over these humans, and they're like, there was 2 humans, fucking Adam and Eve. They started a fucking rebellion, and they stole the apple of forbidden knowledge. Like, there's all of this crossover of different beliefs that, you can see where like the belief came from, but like it's not a direct retelling of the fucking Bible. You can't read the Bible and understand the story of Assassin's Creed. And I think that's where they missed with the Norse story of the Isu.
But you're agreeing with me though that like that's a miss. But like what I hate about that is like that's what the stories. The ending is these 3 Isu that are they're just Norse gods that they're now saying Isu, and they reincarnated and fight after you spend 100 hours playing as these characters in this time.
No, I definitely...
And for some reason, 2 of them don't remember.
And they all just fight at the end. Half of them don't even remember. The other half does, and he's supposed to be the only fucking assassin in the game. But instead of being an assassin and learning his secrets, he's just fucking literally Loki, who wants to kill Odin because he killed his wolf. Fuck off.
I still think
Basim. Do you understand? You guys surely understand how much fucking bullshit this is to me?
I understand.
You understand why I think this is dumb as fuck? I fucking hate it. I
still think Basim in the early game is an assassin, though. Like, he still represents everything we know to be an assassin. I don't think that changed. Just in the later game, he sort of subverts expectations.
What do you mean in the later game? The game's 100 hours long, and he stopped being an assassin after 6 hours. Like, he doesn't do anything.
I guess when he's sort of being all mysterious with Sigurd, it's a little bit though.
He's like...
But that's him being Loki at that point. It's not him being an assassin.
Basim is punching him in the face.
Oh, I never punched Basim. I punched
Sigurd. Yeah, I didn't punch Basim.
Because he's been a dickhead.
I punched Basim, but I did not punch Sigurd.
I've shagged his wife, punched him, and made him look a fool.
I punched him.
Oh my god!
Fucked off to Vinland while he was being tortured by Falcon. And then you got high and went to Asgard, which, as it turns out, is just you getting high and then dreaming and remembering shit with your interpretation filling in the blanks. How the fuck does that work? How the fuck should that work? It should be more complex.
You know what's really weird is after all of the mythical arcs
on every layer, I hated that mythical stuff.
What was
that? On every level, there's not a level I enjoy the mythical arcs. There's not a level I enjoy that ending. There's not a level. There's no part of it I enjoyed. I fucking hate all of it.
Yeah,
it's awful. It makes me so upset.
James has turned into a therapist.
Through the mythical arcs, right? So you've got the mythical arcs, you've got the truth sequences, and you've got the Norway ending, right? And then after all of that, you go. So you do we can talk about this in a minute, but you go into Alfred's study after you've done the Order of Ancient Ending,
yes.
and you read the talk about the precursors and the Father of Understanding, Mother of Wisdom, and the Sacred Voice. And Eivor says to herself, "What are these mad ramblings?" And it's like, wait, you're telling me you didn't pick up on any of this? You went through all of that and you still don't understand what the Isu are? You still don't understand that you're one of them? Are you fucking kidding me?
It's badly placed dialogue, really badly placed once again, that completely throws away all of the development.
It's like the stories don't... It's like the order in which you have to play the story is not the order in which the events actually happened. Which is
weird because it's
surely
forced. You can't complete it in any other order, which is strange. It might be that, and I mean, this is no excuse, but it might be that in early development, it was going to be more of an Odyssey where you could complete any in whichever order you wanted, and so it stayed like that even when they changed.
And then they heard people.
Maybe Eivor's just an idiot.
Odyssey was just maybe Eivor's really fit.
Maybe she's just
a fucking idiot.
Stupid.
Like.
Eivor got.
I hate Eivor too. I fucking hate Eivor.
Can we all agree
as a
though?
child. Do you reckon as a child, Eivor was like stacking cairnstones, and then one of them fell on her head, and then she became an idiot? And that's how that
Definitely.
happened.
Yeah.
There you go. Bam.
Can we all agree though that Eivor is not up there in the top characters in Assassin's Creed, despite being engaging
not
and
even
great?
close.
I love Eivor, but yeah,
I don't think Eivor.
Like when you compare Eivor with Bayek, it's like not even fucking close.
The reason why I can't, the reason
close.
why I can't do it is because I can't put Eivor up that high. Is because you have to choose male, female, basically. And I look at that and I go, just give the role to one actor or actress.
Femvor.
Let them own it, yeah.
Yeah, and let that actor or actress own it. You know what I mean? That's why this entire, you can choose both is well justified when people complain about it for one reason or another, because you don't get a character, you get a vessel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
And
been a problem with Assassin's Creed for a long while.
Yeah.
Like even with Aya and Bayek and Jacob and Evie, like they just can't fucking pick one. I don't know what their problem is. And the next game better be one protagonist. I don't care if it's male or female. I don't give a shit. Just give me one protagonist.
Imagine if the next game is a solo male protagonist. That would be so funny. I'd fucking piss myself. That would be so fucking funny.
I mean, that would be ridiculously Ubisoft.
Oh,
but no, I reckon they could get a lot out of a solo female.
Oh, they definitely could.
They could. And
absolutely.
I don't
well
know. They
overdue.
failed so many times, to be fair, with Aveline and fucking Aya. She's shit. Fucking Cassandra. Well, Cassandra to me is the canon protagonist, but like.
And then you've got 4 pointless Jacob missions for every semi decent Evie.
Yeah, where he
mission
fucks up the economy
Syndicate.
like 4 times for some reason.
fucks up the economy.
Jacob is such a fucking idiot. I hate his character so much. I don't know why they added him in.
Fuck.
You know what? In Assassin's Creed 1,
I actually
right, where you
liked Evie a
violate the
lot, which
tenets
is
of the
such a
creed at the very
shame.
beginning, and then Al-Muralin basically punishes you,
Mhm.
right? How the fuck is Jacob getting away with that? He literally crashed the fucking
I
economy.
know. His mentor should be
Al-Malin's got to come
stabbing
from
him.
the past and stab him.
He should be stabbing him with a golden knife.
Yeah.
It's actually mental.
But then you
Al-Malin.
find
He
out
doesn't
that
do
the
to be
mentor
fair.
of the English Brotherhood in Assassin's Creed Syndicate is actually a reincarnated Isu, and he only stabbed Jacob because of an ancient vendetta.
Ah, yes.
That'd be a good one to do.
I
would be
want
good.
to be
But yeah, I
dead right now. Then think about that. That's the story of this fucking game.
I don't know.
Oh my
Look, I think
God.
that it's
How can you guys like this? I just don't understand
like the
how you
game.
guys don't
Listen-
think this
listen,
is fucking
Tyler.
insane.
You know the cairn stacking mechanic? I made a knob with it. It was
Okay.
also. Did you know
Okay.
they
I'll
play?
send you.
Did you know,
I'll send
Tyler?
you the picture.
They play Black Flag music when you're in Vinland.
Oh yeah, for some reason.
What? They what?
Yeah, they play Black Flag music
Yeah.
at
I
certain
thought
points in
was
Vinland.
is it like that track where you're sort of sailing away with Steve Bonnet?
It's
at
the
beginning,
one.
but
Yeah, it's
sort
like
of
the one that goes do 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 do. It's that one.
Beautiful rendition.
Well- my rendition.
Right, okay,
I'll say
I'm gonna-
this.
I'm gonna show
Vinland
you my. I'm
Arc
gonna show you my.
can
my
stand on
cairn
its
knob.
own.
Vinland Arc, best arc. Vinland Arc is the whole game.
That's
I made a
that's
cairn
my
knob.
favorite arc. In fact, it's the only arc I like, and it's the only
Cairn
part
knob.
of the game I can sit here and say it was because it was isolated and good. Like it wasn't ruined by later stuff. It was just this isolated good arc. Everything
Yeah.
else.
Well, this
can
is
suck
my
me off.
canon interpretation of the game, right? So I think what actually happened in the game, what we're seeing is not real, okay?
Here
So
we
what actually
go.
happened is you leave
Okay.
Norway, you go to England, you set up your settlement.
You die.
No.
Eivor dies, and the
You
rest of the
go-
game is just a fucking
No.
mental
You
fever
go
dream.
to Oxenfordshire. You do all of that stuff. Sigurd gets kidnapped, and then what you do is you go to Vinland, and then you die in Vinland, and that's the game. That's the whole game.
That's all
Yeah.
that
And that's
happened.
why
Now,
Eivor
now,
was buried there.
here's the thing. So Eivor. So we have to talk about this. Eivor's body's in
Yeah.
Vinland.
Yes.
Like it's in North America. So obviously in these DLCs, becomes a fucking assassin. Something happens at the end of the world. Like, there's gonna be Monday stuff in this DLC.
Yeah,
with Bass.
definitely.
Oh, for sure. They've gone for the live service approach,
like-
so the story's not.
Yeah.
over
Oh
until
yeah.
the
Like
last
there,
DLC.
there's like legitimately like they probably will wrap up Bassam's whole modern day storyline in Valhalla.
They're gonna have
like-
William Miles show up and be very confused as to why
Like,
the fuck
does the
he's
name
already-
William
and he looks
Miles
nothing
ring a
like
bell?
William Miles in AC3 or Origins. They've changed his face again.
Yeah, he's gonna look
'cause
completely
they love to do
different.
up the Monday
New voice
characters.
actor
Do you reckon
too.
he'll have less? I reckon he'll be bold.
He's like,
Because they-
does
And
the
they'll,
name
and
William
they'll have
Miles
and
ring
it'll
a
be
bell?
his third and it'll be his third
I
voice
reckon he'll be.
actor.
I reckon he'll
Or
be
fourth
bold all
voice
of a sudden,
actor.
and they'll have Basim paralyze him.
And he's got a big Polish head.
Big Otto Bergman.
Yeah, Basim will stab him in the spine with the Staff of Eden.
And they'll go, that's for my son.
And then William's
My
like,
fucking son.
William's like, well, little did you know I'm the mad
He just
one,
thinks
and he rips
everyone's
his eye
Odin.
out.
He just thinks everyone's Odin.
He whips out an apple, turns into a phoenix, and flies off and burns him.
In all seriousness, though, I fucked my words up completely there. In all seriousness, though, the scene where it's Basim and Eivor at the campfire, the one that's fully mocapped for some reason.
Yeah,
that
one,
scene is fucking phenomenal. Like it's really well done.
It's nice. Yeah,
it's a nice scene.
That is the standard of cutscene you should aim for. With you know what?
All of it.
All of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can never get over, right, the cutscenes that aren't cutscenes. You're just standing with another character talking to them, and you're making random arm gestures. Like, nobody is that stuntedly animated that they're doing this with their arms.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
They shake their head and they throw both their arms out. And it's like, what are you doing?
They shake their head,
really
they throw both their arms, they do all sorts. It's just like, why are you doing that?
Again, I think it's the engine they use. They need to fucking update it. They need to
Get rid of
stop
it.
using Odyssey models.
It's the weird thing is, it's the Unity engine. It's the same engine.
Yeah, they need to be done with it.
Get rid of it.
They need to get rid of it.
You know,
and don't make one that's worse.
They need an engine that actually allows for, more detail for one, because clearly this one doesn't. Because it just seems to be very general and broad, and everything's there to almost do the work for you by the looks of it. Sometimes, like it's there to. There's settings that you can pop on it as opposed to like manually doing things.
Yeah,
so that those random animations, make the character do the random animations by default in these random dialogue non-cutscenes. They're not even cutscenes. They're non-cutscenes. They're pointless.
They're really bad.
You know what? If you're gonna do those. In those kinds of cutscenes, right? Just let us keep control of the character, and we'll keep walking, and then we can just select the dialogue with the D-pad or something. In those moments, that'll be fine.
Instead of locking you into like a conversation.
Instead of locking you into standing awkwardly, facing each other, randomly moving your arms, and occasionally getting a choice. I don't. Yeah. Is that so hard? Like, I mean, come on, just get rid of the random arm movements and give us more actual cutscenes as well. Like,
yeah, I'd love
actual cutscenes.
I just love fucking mocapped cutscenes. Like, I don't even care. Like, take out dialogue options because they didn't even add anything to Valhalla. I've said this for so long. We don't need dialogue options.
It's a lot of. With Valhalla, there's a lot of yes, maybe later, and then a range of questions you can ask, as opposed to the broad to the broad variety of emotions you could probably just choose from randomly, like a bipolar freak.
I mean, I'd rather the game just do it for me, and I follow Eivor's story.
The game can do it for you. At some points there are dialogue options, and you go, okay, I can choose this or that, and I appreciate it, but I don't think it's really worked proper.
You
know what? Just give us a story.
Give us Assassin's Creed.
And it also
back
just
right
complicates Layla's animus as well, like just pointlessly. It's like, why is she able to choose? Why she? Like, I know they've explained it to an extent where her animus can load things that could have happened if it went a certain way, but that just complicates her animus far too much.
Such as playing as male Eivor.
Such as getting high on drugs, going to Jotunheim, and romancing Blue Minerva.
So, why couldn't you shag Minerva? Like, maybe I guess canonically Odin did shag Minerva.
Yeah. In Jotunheim, did you not do Jotunheim?
Oh, for fuck's! I did, but I never shagged Minerva. For fuck's sake.
There's just a bit of dialogue with it because you're going into the thing to steal the mead.
They're tall as well. They're tall as well. It's like going, oh look, a Na'vi from Avatar.
Yeah,
mead that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
A big blue woman. You can just do her. Well, to be fair,
that.
Those arcs are. It's Eivor's interpretation of the gods conflicting with Odin's memory, isn't it? So
Eivor is just fucked. So and also another thing that I think is worth pointing out.
But George, you're making me play as this main character in an Assassin's Creed game, and I'm
Tyler interrupts
fighting a frost giant. I'm not fucking fighting a frost giant, George. I'm not fucking doing it. Like, you'll see, you watch my Jotunheim reaction, like this fucking man bear pig chasing after me. I'm like, I'm not fighting a fucking man bear pig. I'm not fucking doing it.
I agree with you. I hate the boss battles in Valhalla. I hate all of them.
And that's the thing as well, is people, like, there's good justification lore-wise for why it's happening. I have no issue with that. It's just the presentation and the gameplay of it is still shit. Because no matter how you justify it, and sure, Valhalla justifies it in a way that's leagues above how Odyssey justifies it. But the fact of the matter is, I'm still in fucking Jotunheim fighting frost giants. It's still happening. Yeah. And it's still shit. So it doesn't matter how well you explain it or how much it ties into the story. And sure, I appreciate that being better and that there was interesting elements to something like a Jotunheim arc. But it's still fucking terrible to play. and like that's really the core issue of it.
The Jotunheim arc and the Asgard arc, I didn't like either of them in any capacity whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like I was right. Okay, I'm done with this story part of it. I'm not going to do any of the rest of it. Maybe I'll do some of the stuff that I haven't done on a stream at some point if I want money. But I don't think I'm gonna. I don't think otherwise that would make a good stream actually. Maybe
Oh god, I've got to play them.
It'd be really funny if I do that between now and this episode releasing. No, what I'm saying is I couldn't bring myself to hang around there any longer because I don't know. Asgard felt like it was constructed deliberately to inconvenience the player. With the world map being loads of cliffs and stuff that you can climb, and they're really high ones because fantasy, you can get away with making big tall shit that didn't exist. And so it felt like they were using that was an excuse in world design to make the game feel artificially longer than it perhaps is at that point, which is something that Odyssey did a lot of, which is artificially bloating the game by inconveniencing the player with all fetch objectives that should be quite simple by throwing loads of guards at you that are all damage sponges, or you have to travel to this place, which is maybe 15,000 meters away. You've not got a fast travel marker near it. You just have to run in a straight line up and down cliffs. You know what I mean? So when it comes down to it, what you realize is a lot of that arc, especially, you'll spend just being inconvenienced. And I can't bring myself to go back there in the open world for any reason because I just can't be arsed with the world, the poor structure of the actual world space.
Yeah, they're fundamentally badly designed open worlds, and there's no two ways about it.
Fundamentally inconvenient, and the main bulk of the open world isn't. So it feels like it's at a disconnect for that as well, because the main bulk of it's quite smooth. I mean, actually, Norway is pretty. You either take the road or you similar story really.
Climbing over mountains,
and I understand that. Just take the fucking road. With Asgard, you have to go all the way around if you want to take the road. So you just wind up going straight in a straight line. It's designed to inconvenience the player, which has Ubisoft Quebec written all over it. If Ubisoft Quebec didn't make that, and you know that, let me know. Let us know. We can put our hands up and say fuck. But obviously, it looks like the work of Odyssey. It looks like Odyssey when you play those.
Well, we know Quebec. We know Quebec had a hand in the game.
I don't want to fight
somewhere,
a fucking squirrel.
So it's got to. I mean,
I was hoping that they would. I was hoping that their influence was limited, but you know, fair enough to them. But maybe figure out why.
Figure out how to make games, guys. Come on, sort it out. Figure it out,
please. I have one question that I want to ask you guys. Actually, that's been playing on my mind for a while. What do you think about the theory that Subject 16 in Brotherhood is actually the reader from Valhalla?
Hey, that's our theory. Me and Tyler came up.
I saw it on Reddit.
You hurt my head.
Me and Tyler.
I made a video. I made that video in 2016, George. I made that video in 2016.
Reader. Yeah, I remember because I remember that video because that's when your son, your son, talking to him in Brotherhood, and you go, what if that's Desmond from the future? And that Subject 16 in Brotherhood could actually just be the reader because he says Subject 16 and he responds yes, Subject 17. He doesn't know Subject 17.
I guess he shivers every single time.
And he says find Eve, and it's almost like, well, we know Desmond is meant to be a representation of Adam, but Layla she could be the other part of the puzzle, and they're there in that sort of weird nexus to save the world.
And that's it's clear by the ending imagery.
And it plays into what Layla's saying, as in, what if you go back to before Desmond saves the world? And it's like, it's far later than too late to save them. So that's what save her, and what he's trying to tell us, she's not who you think she is. So he's talking about Juno's not who you think she is. Don't save the world. He's almost trying to warn him not to save the world. It fits in. Really
we
well,
thought it was Lucy at the time.
That's what I was saying in 2016. I made that video, and that's what I said. I was like, I think that the Subject 16 in Brotherhood is Desmond from the future after. And I just was like, I don't know about the reader and fucking the Valhalla stuff, but it's like, well,
going back to
the eye was used to communicate, whereas when did Desmond die? Well, he used the eye, so maybe he's in the Great Communicating, or maybe in that moment that he was dying, used that eye and was able to go back in the past. Who knows? But
we have no idea.
It's very clear, I think.
That was my theory.
A little bit through, and what was it that? Obviously, the Isu aren't there in 2 and Brotherhood or whatever when they show up, and they're they're talking to Ezio, but they seem to at times respond to him. So they can communicate through time a little bit, can't they?
Yeah, they can, because it's when
that
Ezio asks her who
explains
she
how,
is.
and that explains how Desmond could use the Grey to, send those messages
To communicate,
back.
Yeah, exactly. And
Communicate and be like, find Eve, she's the key.
Yeah,
and, then
and
let
also
things
you've
get back
got
to course.
Juno says at the end of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, she says the one will accompany you through the gate. She lies not within our sight. And there was this line of dialogue that I thought was maybe purposefully placed. Is Sean says to Layla as she's going into Idrisil, he said something like, "You've got to make sure to stay focused, or you won't make it through the first gate." And it's like, was that a link to that dialogue or not? But it's cool nonetheless. And you get that the final imagery of that modern day moment with Layla and Desmond is both of them glowing in front of what looks like the tree with the fruit of forbidden knowledge on it, like Adam and Eve, that
the
biblical,
symbolism of that bit is just
imagery of Adam and Eve finally
really
being there, and
that's
cool. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
That is a great, like, no doubt that's like a great payoff in some way. I think for me it's been so long, and it just felt like this stuff doesn't matter anymore.
And you also didn't
it's been so long, and it just felt like that stuff's been so long forgotten that I'm like, it's nice that you're paying it off, but like
it's a clear retcon.
Like, what it's a clear retcon, but so much time's passed that it's like it doesn't matter anymore.
Well, I guess it matters now to the story. They've brought it back, but I guess the whole retcon thing can be difficult to overlook, because it's like they clearly weren't planning it.
Yeah,
I just my care for it had disappeared. My care for those theories.
I get it, but I still care. And so for me, it like had weight to it, and I was like, that was really cool. Like that was something that I was really invested in. They did something that worked, made sense, and made me feel something. And so I'm like, that was good, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, like please bring back more old plot points that you didn't do anything with, please. Because that was one of the most powerful moments from Assassin's Creed from my recent memory. Like, I can't think of anything that's made me feel that way from Assassin's Creed for a long time. It felt significant. It felt like they're finally moving the story forward.
Yeah, and like we've talked a bit about the Codex pages and them not actually influencing Abel and how that sucks and everything. But that aside for a minute, the Codex pages themselves are fucking terrific, and I love that.
Amazing.
Not only does it give some more depth to Aya or Aminet, and then Bayek's letter obviously giving depth to that, and having fucking Darby McDevitt writing Bayek and Aya, it's beautiful.
Goosebumps, yeah, it's fantastic.
On top of that, it also gives so much more to Origins itself, because one of my biggest issues was that they keep saying they've got a creed, they've got a brotherhood, they've got this order, and they never really establish any of that. And so these Codex pages are talking about how the foundations of the Brotherhood were messy, they weren't clear, and even when they established the creed, the point is to acknowledge the hypocrisy of the creed itself, and that, like Desmond says, the creed itself has the seeds of its own destruction within it, and to acknowledge that when moving forward. And I love that about it, and it shows that Amunet and Bayek considered it after the fact, and they continued developing and pushed it on to what we see in later iterations of the Assassin's Brotherhood.
Should have been its own game.
I love that about it.
Its own game.
Oh god, yeah, it should have been.
We should have just had a fucking
that would have been incredible to see that follow.
In a perfect world, seeing the conception and the what's the right fucking word? Yeah, the development of the Brotherhood from such an infantile stage. Fucking hell, man.
Yeah.
Especially, I think if they gave it another go, they could show that tragedy and that messiness of Bayek and Aya's relationship as well, which wasn't really conveyed too well in Origins.
Yeah.
There was some really good themes there, and they really missed out.
Yeah.
I know I've been saying this for years, but it just makes me so sad.
Yeah, and it's like when you look at something like the Hidden Ones DLC, and you've got the entire arc is about the foundation of forming Never Bring Harm to Innocence. It's so brilliant, because not only is it like this journey that Bayek goes on, you've got these side missions, like there's some great side quests in the Hidden Ones DLC. Honestly, the Hidden Ones DLC is leagues above the main game itself for me. But you've got like the son of the Scarab that you meet, and you bring him into the Hidden Ones, and he learns that lesson. And then you've got the woman who Bayek teaches the leap of faith to let go of fear and to fight back against the oppressors, and all of those things. And you've got these targets that you take out, and then you realize that, like, although what's his name, Galamet or whatever,
Gamelad.
Oh yeah,
that's the one.
Gamelad. Yeah, the
although,
one that makes a Star Wars reference.
Although he's fighting for the right
Volva
things.
Bayek, I have the high ground. It's like, fuck off. It's the only Easter egg that ever gets talked about that. There's no one others in that DLC. That's the only Easter egg.
Although he's fighting for the right things, the way he's going about it is not the way the assassins want to do it. And so they establish, like, we can, no matter what we do, we've always got to protect the innocents. And, like, it's so brilliant. It's such a great fucking arc.
Because Gamelad wanted to make Marvel.
You literally could have done another game that was all about forming, right, so hide in plain sight and never compromise the Brotherhood. Like, we need those two tenets to be formed. And then the Maxim, nothing is true, everything's permitted. Like, having that. Imagine, like, having this, like, Bayek and I are both having these different, like, philosophical discussions and, like, really forming the creed and, like, going through these experiences together. How incredible that could have been.
Yeah, and that dialogue that wouldn't be bogged down by random stupid acts of passion where they randomly kiss or have sex, or like just stuff that cuts up the dialogue that's completely pointless. Like it would be like if there was a sequel, they don't really care about that side of their relationship anymore, which would leave a lot more room for those philosophical discussions.
Yeah, and you've got like you wouldn't have, sections like carrying Cleopatra inside the fucking Alexandria inside of a rug. You'd have something maybe a bit more meaningful and has a bit more substance to it.
Maybe something that takes itself a bit more fucking seriously.
Yeah, and it's like...
I think Cleopatra did get in that way historically.
Yeah, well, she can fucking do that. I don't need to do it. Why am I doing it?
She can do it on her own. You don't.
Why does Bayek have to do it? It's like making Ezio like paint the Mona Lisa or something like that. Or just like the stupid way they handle historical characters in the newer games, where it's like there's no nuance to it.
I see what you mean. It's something that you shouldn't necessarily be directly involved in. It should just be something that's happening.
Yeah, or like a little nod to it.
Maybe it could happen in the background of you breaking into the place.
It's time for assassinations.
Oh my god, that's the worst line. English Cleopatra saying it's time for assassinations. Jesus fucking Christ.
I think Origins is actually a really good example of a game that gets things really wrong, but gets other things really right as well. I think Valhalla's in the same vein as Origins, in a sense that there's parts of it that fucking blew me away, but there's parts of it that I absolutely detested while I was playing it and afterwards as well.
Yeah, and I think
where does Valhalla stand for you guys in the overall franchise then? Like, because we've talked about all the ins and outs of this game at this point. Like, but where does it now? It's almost like, where does it stand for you guys,
easily for me? This is an easy one for me. It's definitely alongside. I think so. You've got the good games, which are AC1, Ezio Trilogy, Black Flag. You've got the bad games that are Unity, AC3, Odyssey, Syndicate, Rogue. And then in between those, I always had Origins. I think Valhalla goes in between there as well with Origins, but better than Origins. I think it's better than Origins.
I presume in a similar position would be my thought, but I haven't put thought to it. It's like people keep asking me, how would you rank the Assassin's Creed games this time around? I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's not something I've thought about, but I agree with James in the sense that it's in the same vein as Origins, but it's better. It's better than Origins.
If I were to, it would be a similar list to that, really.
Yeah, definitely.
It'd be around the Origins mark. And that would be more.
And I think a reason for it is because if I were to just sit down and play a game, I enjoy playing Valhalla more than I enjoy playing Origins.
Origins is a bit of a slog,
yeah. It is.
Well, I guess Valhalla's a massive slog too. It can
There's
be.
Points of Valhalla,
at least
though,
it's an engaging slog.
Like there are points
Origins...
where, like, say there's I enjoyed doing stealth in Valhalla, and I don't really know why or what made it more fun than Origins. But there's something about it. Maybe it's the level design, but I really enjoyed going and taking down targets or going into a place that had a bunch of guards in it and seeing if I could do it without being seen. There's something about it that worked in Valhalla that just didn't feel right in Origins, and I'm not sure what it is. It might be level design.
That's a shout. I don't know why either, because I know at first I was like, I hate the stealth in Valhalla, but I found myself really enjoying it, whereas in Origins it was just sort of like doesn't
I
feel
think level
satisfying.
design was where it come down to. It was better designed for stealth, I think, in general.
Yeah, like it wasn't just like a fort with like four walls and a few
random
buildings
people
inside.
everywhere with no thought to it. It felt like in Origins and Odyssey, it's just like there was no thought to like where we're gonna place these guards and where they patrol. It's just we'll just put them wherever. Whereas like in the older games, they're like there was thought to like if we put them here, it'll give an opportunity. Like they could go this way for stealth, they could go that way for stealth. There's stealth options, and I felt like that was definitely back a bit more. Not as good as like the older games, but because it's just too big to have that much care into it.
Yeah.
But there certainly was actual thought into the stealth, which was nice.
Yeah, it was.
And
they
in
tried.
terms of like to give my 2 cents into where it stands overall, like I agree that it's, you know, in terms of this RPG trilogy, it's better than Origins and Odyssey and how it plays and actually being an RPG and the overall open world. But I think story wise and character wise, it was so empty for me and paid off so little. I would rather play Origins again than play Valhalla, even though Valhalla is probably a better designed game in almost every way, bar the story and character, than Origins. I think for that alone. But I'm like, but if I get to play as Bayek, and it's still not that
the only
far
good
off
character in Origins.
in combat, like I would probably just rather be playing as Bayek and play Origins.
Yeah,
and
Bayek's
feel like I'm
definitely
an assassin or becoming an
Bayek
assassin.
Bayek is
So
an
I
outstanding,
think
like,
I like
performance, if anything.
Origins. Yeah, I like Origins better than Valhalla for sure. Valhalla I would put in the bad games, even though in terms of design, it's actually way better designed.
Okay.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
But
That's
it
fair
sits,
enough, man.
Yeah, it's just in the bad games for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where it stands for me.
That's it.
Was there anything we've missed
Oh,
with this book?
I'll tell you what. We missed the Order of the Ancients ending with Alfred.
Yes.
The
Did
Templars.
we? Was that an
We
ending?
haven't really gone to depth about it just yet, you know. Like we did say that. Oh, it was a bit silly that Avel's like, these are mad ramblings, even though it had been perfectly explained to us and her throughout the plot.
Overall, though, that ending and that whole section, I really, really enjoyed.
So did
the
I. It was
context
great.
of it, in terms of the fact that Eivor sort of accidentally, without realizing, formed allowed the Templars to exist, is like, you know, a whole other conversation. But the actual, like, I really liked Alfred and the performance and him as a character, and the idea that Alfred of Wessex is the man that created the Templars, I think is great, and I think he's the perfect man that could have started it. And I love that you've got this, like, across the game, Darby differentiates the Templars from the Order of the Ancients in such a cool, interesting way, and introduces like this Isu political system in the Father, the Mother, and the Voice, and like how the Isu you know, operated, and the fact that they would change them out and there'd be different leaders, and the Order of the Ancients wanted to reinstate that sort of like power system. And then you've got that change where Alfred, because he's such a devout Christian, thinks that it's heresy, wipes them out, and then uses that gap to then form the Templars, in which there's just one Father of Understanding. And it gives that explanation in such a cool, satisfying way. And it also explains as well why in Origins you've got Septimius saying that Caesar is the Father of Understanding, because he's their Father of Understanding in their power dynamic, trying to recreate the Isu's sort of political system. So you've got, you know, to him, Caesar was the Father of Understanding, the same as Jupiter was the Father of Understanding at one point. So I like that whole addition to it and everything. And I think that those discussions where you've got like the different writings in Alfred's study are so fucking good. Like, I've said this before, Darby honestly shouldn't even write these games. He should be writing novels set in the Assassin's Creed universe.
Yeah.
Like, his best stuff is when he can just sit down and write unconstrained, where you've got the Subject Zero audio dramas, you've got all of the notes in Valhalla, in the bureaus, Alfred's writings, the Desmond audio logs, all of it. It's just Darby being able to do what he does without having to think about how does this tie into gameplay, how does this tie into the overall story. Like, he can just write, and it's so interesting. And I think that was all brilliant, and I'm pretty satisfied with the finding out the origin of the Templars, way more than I think I'm satisfied knowing the origin of the Assassins. I think that was really cool.
Yeah.
It's also cool that the Order of Ancients is like the instruments of the First Will.
Yeah.
Whereas the Templars, obviously the Templars, it's like that's almost like the conception of the instruments of the First Will. It's like Fulke's ideologies and stuff like that, and she's also known as the instrument as well, which is quite a nice bit of trivia.
Quite touching.
Yeah, it's
just
nice.
like how Alfred is known as the father, and that sort of plays into that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You go back and you could see their names, and a lot of them do sort of make some sense. I think that brings you into that entire system. I don't think we've actually spoken about the entire Order of Ancient system.
No, we haven't actually. We kind of skipped over that.
Holy fuck!
Well, it's worth talking about. You don't have to edit this. Don't worry about it, Tyler.
Yeah. Okay. Yep,
Just imagine the cult of
Go
Cosmos
on,
from
then.
fucking Odyssey, but
Yeah.
in Norse mythology, where the in fucking Norway. Nah, I don't know. England.
It's a little bit more fleshed out. To be fair, you do have your details, but it does wind up becoming the same system, if you know what I mean. Like,
Except
there's a lot of
it's
it
kinda
that
worse.
I see that it works because a lot of it ties into the story. It's just not running around killing endless men and women. No, in this, you know, you do get to learn a lot. You get to find out their identity through clues and stuff that you
Confessions
find in
too.
different locations. Confessions give you clues, and you have your confession
Mm.
rooms. But sometimes you could just come across them in the open world, stab, done, leave, and I like that as well. But some of the characters that you'll find on there, it's a similar story to Odyssey. It'll just be until you get the confession room. It's a wall of text that you can read to learn about them. Then you kill them. Then you get your confession room at the end.
It's a nice touch.
But it leads to the next thing. It's a nice touch, the confession room. But ultimately, that system, I feel like, is pushed to the side so you could have your epic Viking game.
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine in a full Assassin's Creed story where you're an assassin, that could be taken to literally the stratosphere.
Oh, it
couldn't
could be
Yeah, it could be
incredible.
taken to like next level.
It could be
Like,
mad.
It could be really good.
Mad, that system.
Yeah, and I think
It's
that-
just they
that system
half-ass
could
it
give
every
you that
time.
openness that Ubisoft wants as well. But it could just be a part, like a huge part of the main plot that doesn't just require you to do it for an extra ending bit. It could be a part of the story, you know.
Mhm.
With
every
meaningful
single little
targets
icon
and meaningful
Is a target
investigations.
that has a meaning with an investigation that feels like it gives you that sense of mystery.
Yeah.
It's something that Origins did, I think, that I quite like, is it didn't give you these random targets in the world that you could find. It gave you stories that, you know, that as you went through, they did have some meaning. Obviously, some more so than others.
The hyena.
Like I really liked the Scarab. The Scarab was one that
Yeah.
I
Scarab
really
was pretty
loved.
I think the
decent,
Scarab
yeah.
was a good one. Yeah, Scarab was a good one.
Yeah, Lizard
I
not
like
so
the
good.
Scarab.
Lizard was
Assassinate
really
the
The
crocodile.
best,
crocodile was
the crocodile's the whole game. So,
the crocodile is literally 6 hours.
yeah. With the Order of Ancient system in Valhalla, I felt that it did a lot of things well, but also I feel like it's really misstructured in the way that you can just come across these high-ranking members, and they're not really any different from the lower-ranking members that you find.
They're not really any different from random civilians.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel
Some
like
of them you just chef.
sure the low-ranking ones maybe like it's easier to investigate them and you could take them out in the world, but I feel like at least the high-ranking ones all should have had set-piece missions for them. I feel like that would have made
Yeah,
sense. Like,
Yeah.
definitely.
if you like by taking out each individual lower
take all
target,
the
you build up
lower
to
ones.
this set piece. I think that would have been a lot better.
You do that, then you just get given a quest. Like, you know,
Yeah.
after you've done them all, you get a quest.
Yeah.
And then you get to play out a
Like
story
Gorm.
with that one target.
Like Gorm was, you
Like
take
Gorm,
out
yeah,
that whole
exactly.
tree and then you have the Vinland arc, and like that was really cool. And they should have done that for each one.
Is that how you get that? Is you take out
Yeah,
that tree
yeah,
and then
yeah,
Vinland
yeah.
arc shows up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's the approach you should have taken.
They should have done away with the zealots as well.
To
Zealots
be
are
fair, they did
pointless,
a similar thing
boring,
with
fucking
Folka
shit.
was one of them, wasn't she?
Huh?
Folka
Folke
was
was
another
one,
one that was
yeah,
Fol-
yeah.
Yeah,
But it wasn't one where you had to kill all these targets to get to it. You could just kill them later. You just got her. It's like,
Yeah,
right,
Yeah, you can
okay.
just kill them at the end if you want. That's what.
So
I
what's the
did. I
point in
waited till
killing
I
these
won,
lot then? Is it just to get the medallions to give them to Hytham because he likes to stick them on the wall? He
Yeah.
loves staring.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know
You
why
know?
they have these medallions, but they do.
Yeah.
And you take them for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only
Yeah.
purpose that they serve.
And then you've got and then it allows for Alfred to have taken out the Order of Ancients in England and established the Templars. And he said as well, they've set stuff up that in other countries in Europe and in France and Ireland that there are Templars there, like people that are agreeing with Alfred. So the Templars are already starting to take hold.
Yeah.
I think it's quite interesting though that not long after Alfred establishes the Templars, their entire meaning behind why they were established gets lost. It's really not long at all.
Yeah.
It's a couple hundred years between Valhalla and the Crusades, and when you go to the Crusades, the Templars don't believe in God. So it's interesting that they go from being formed in Alfred's time to being this devout order that believes in one divine God to being practically what they were before, which is they don't believe in God, they believe in these ones who came before, and they want a world order.
I think that's interesting though, because it's almost like Assassin's Creed never agreed with religion. It always found a way for people to sort of denounce their ignorance and sort of seek knowledge of the actual history that happens in the world. And that's quite interesting that even this whole entire order that's formed on the belief of a god still in the end, after hundreds of years, ends up denouncing that belief.
Yeah, and it links
it's
to,
almost like
what Haytham said in Assassin's Creed 3, where he's like, you can't kill the Templars because the order's born of a realization that of how the world really is. And so Alfred tried to create this order that followed God, but it ends up becoming not that.
Because there's always that realization.
Yeah, there's always that realization. As much like, because it's an order that seeks to find knowledge to be able to bring order, and in doing so, in seeking knowledge, you end up realizing that the central beliefs of your faith don't actually exist, at least in the Assassin's Creed universe. So
yeah,
I think it's interesting, and I think it's pretty cool that they they play with that and stuff. And yeah, overall, I think that's really cool, and there's a lot of really cool shit in the game. It's really interesting. Like, as well, the little notes you can find around the cabin in the modern day, where it talks about the difference between the hidden ones and the assassins, and where did that change come from? Or the idea that, well, why did Edward name his son Haytham? Well, it might have been because the first assassin back in England after hundreds of years was called Haytham, and Edward read about him, and like, that's really fucking cool. And I love that. And there's just those little bits where it's like, they're just little bits of lore, but they're cool, and I like it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What they do is, and I think it's important, is they're not lore points for the sake of lore points. They're lore points that add to what exists. And so I don't look at it and go, oh, that's just a random piece of lore. Why'd you tell me that? I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, it's meaningful lore, and that's what I like about it. So although there's a lot of pieces that don't necessarily play into Eivor's arc and the narrative itself, what it does do for me is it holds emotional weight. And that's what's important about it. I think that's why it satisfies me.
More of that, but less of the antagonist. More of that sort of emotional lore, but less of the protagonist not understanding.
Yeah, if you can then incorporate it having emotional weight to not just me but the protagonist as well, then you've nailed it.
Then it'll be alright.
Yeah, that increases your investment in it as well, because it's like, well, I'm on this journey with this protagonist learning about stuff that we both care about.
Exactly. And although I care about a lot of stuff you find out in Valhalla, if Eivor cared about it too, I'd care more about Eivor's journey. But it seemed a lot of the time I was going out of my way to leave Eivor's journey so that I could do stuff that I actually wanted to do. And that's where you find that disconnect. But that's not to say the things that they're bad, because they're not. They're great. I just don't like the disconnect between those things and
that just needs
the main stuff. Yeah,
definitely.
It needs to all feel like one journey. You know what I mean? It can't be like several.
You can't have parts, like pieces that are stuck together. You need it to all be one flowing narrative where the world sort of all complements that narrative, opposed to the little tidbits every now and then that make you sort of like raise your eyebrows. Then you go back to the nonsensical shit again.
Yeah, and it felt like you were going out of your way to find these like secrets, and it's almost like something you shouldn't find. It's like, these are we hid these here for you guys, but like, they're not actually part of the game, like, and it's
like Excalibur and Mjolnir and Nodin's Ark.
Yeah, I like finding,
because apparently that means nothing to. Why you have us run around with them as weapons then?
Man,
that's a part. It's just so meaningless to have those 4 pieces.
You reduce
of Eden.
That weight of pieces of Eden. The fact that Eivor, who doesn't care about them at all, finds so many of them and just carries them about, and nobody ever says like, what the fuck is that? Like
in AC Brotherhood, when you have the apple, civilians like walk away from, like, they look at you in fear because Ezio's holding the fucking apple of Eden. It's like glowing orb. Like, people had noticed it. Whereas in Valhalla, no one cares.
Sorcery.
Like, I noticed that recently.
Sorcerer, let's leave.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, I never noticed it before whenever I played Brotherhood, but replaying it recently for the video, I noticed that the civilians are scared of Ezio when he's holding the apple. That's such a nice attention to detail. Whereas in Valhalla,
such a nice touch.
Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. You can be carrying a big glowing sword in your back and no one cares. You can have the fucking new bow that's pointless and no one cares. Like, I don't know why people care about it.
There's such a dissonance there between narrative and gameplay, and it's just too much. It gets to a point where it's too much. Like, even having the Sword of Eden in Unity is like, sure, they said like, oh, it lost its power, so it's just a regular sword. It's still a little bit weird.
Why would I fucking use it then?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a light.
Like, why would he use?
I don't know. It's weird.
That's true, actually.
But, or like, you've got the Minerva's armor in Syndicate, and it's like, it's getting to a point now where it's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like the armor of Altair makes sense.
When it's just the one piece of Eden, you can overlook it and go, it's just one piece of Eden that happens to be there.
Yeah.
And you know what? You can overlook that. But it's 4.
It's 4. Yeah, it is.
It's 4.
It's 4, and you can wheel 3 of them at once.
And you can put pieces of Eden on your longship.
And like, let's be honest, it's Mjolnir. Like, why is that a piece of Eden? It doesn't need to be a piece of Eden. It's fucking like, not everything linked to mythology.
It could
needs
just
to be
an
a piece
ordinary
of Eden.
hammer. It still breaks kneecaps.
Yeah, that's
you know
the thing
I mean?
as well.
That's
like, it's so odd because pieces of Eden used to have like a purpose. Like, you'd have the Apple of Eden made so much sense because like it links to like biblical stuff, but also like it makes sense in context of the game. Then you've got like the Staff of Eden, the Sword of Eden. Like, oh, they created a sword that grants the user charisma. And all of those things, and it's like, that's really cool and interesting. And then it's like, but they also made a hammer that glows and is just a hammer.
It explodes. The Hammer of Eden. It puts nails really deep in the wall.
Yeah, it's like, why'd they do that?
Yeah, it's like,
why'd they make the weird...
The DIY daddy.
What's the fucking armor from Origins as well? What is that?
Yeah, why does it fit him? Like, it's Isu armor.
Why does it look like something straight from Destiny? You know, there's a big question.
Like the Nodin's arc bow as well. Why? What the? I put this up on Twitter. Like, what use do the Isu have of a regular human bow? That doesn't make fucking sense.
What used to? Why is it in a random rock?
Yeah, what?
It's ridiculous.
It's all those things where it's like, why? What is this? Like, you can put this shit in the game, like, if you really want to, but don't try and make a canon reason for it because it's just silly. It's really silly.
I don't think they tried to make a canon reason for Odin's
But
arc.
they made it exist, though.
there.
Like, it actually exists. Like, it's not just like a skin. It's like, it actually does exist, and Eivor actually has it. And so it's like, what?
Oh, for fuck's
like canon.
sake, man.
But, like, as
ridiculous.
well, like, you've got things like where I actually thought it was really cool is, like, Excalibur. I actually really liked that whole getting Excalibur, and, like, you've got the notes there about,
cool.
like, Arthur and Merlin and everything, and, like, that's so interesting. And, like, the temple, like, you find out that was like an Isu barracks and everything. And, like, I love that. I thought it was a cool journey. The sword is, like, fine. I'm not going to use it. But, like, it was interesting.
Oh, I do. I fuck people up with it.
I just...
epic Viking Isu warrior. You know what I mean?
I cannot do it.
I can't use two-handed weapons in that game.
I go a step further and dual wield it with Mjolnir.
No.
That's insane.
Stop it,
How can
Ethan.
you do that?
There'll be footage of me doing it in this when I use the footage in this episode.
Oh, man.
You'll hate it. So the reason why I do it is to highlight how absurd it is.
Yeah.
You can just have several pieces of Eden and dual wield 2 of them, and then have a bow as well. That's also a piece of Eden, and then you can wear like Thor's armor or whatever. And that, I guess, is that just an armor?
That's like Animus trickery. It's got to be. If that's canon, that's not canon. That can't be canon.
Because you get several of the pieces from the daughter. You get the armor set from the Daughters of Lyrion.
Does Eivor actually fight those? I don't think she does.
I don't know.
Course.
They drug you up, and then you scrap them, and they have like stupid amounts of powers in that like drug trip thing.
They use that excuse too much.
Yeah, they
still
do.
Defeat them. Yeah, exactly. They do. You're high.
You're high.
Yeah, exactly.
So
they use it far too much.
boss battle.
It's like, we know that
God,
like
not
what are they called? The berserkers. Like, they supposedly took mushrooms before battles and stuff like that. Like, that's ingrained in sort of Norse culture from that time, but it's not like,
but these are just random gases that get fired at you out of nowhere.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense.
And make you hallucinate very specific things.
Yeah, it's like those.
Which doesn't
it's
make
those
too
things
much
that I
sense.
hate. Like, there is such a weird disconnect between the things that I love in this game and the things that I hate. It's so odd.
To be fair, I did quite like learning about the Daughters of Lyrion through the letters and stuff you can find at their camps and stuff like that, and at their like the places at the end. Because at the end of, once you've taken them all out, you can head to like an estate with their weapons, and there's no marker to tell you to go here, but then you can follow it through, stick their weapons in like this doorway thing. It's like a key, so you stick it in this lock thing. It's like a statue. The statue crumbles down, and then a passageway appears. You head down there, there's more letters, and you learn about what happened to, you know, Lyrion and all that stuff. Turns out he wanted to invade Mercia. He wanted to be king of Mercia in that, and then he got stopped. And it was pretty cool. And then you just get, out of nowhere, Thor's helmet.
Yeah, see,
I'm thinking, what the fuck
it's one
is
of those
that
things
there?
where, like, that's so interesting, but I feel like the presentation's so fucking... I hate it. Like, I like the concept of that, like, you know, finding the history behind these things, but why does it have to be fantasy based? Why can't these things be grounded?
Why does it have to be Thor's
like,
helmet?
Yeah, one, don't give me
to be
Thor's
there?
helmet. Two, don't fucking put me on these drug trips. Just have these crazy people fight me and let me fight them, but do it in a cool way. Like, the combat system looks so ridiculous that none of the fights have any weight to them.
You know what boss fight from an older Assassin's Creed game, Bloodlines, actually would have worked for the Daughters of Lyrion.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Does
one?
anyone remember the
God, it's been a
witch?
while
Ah,
since I played that game.
yeah, the Oracle woman.
Oh
The witch
god,
is
I
what
don't
she
even
was
remember
referred to.
that from Blood. Oh god, it's been so long since I
Yes.
played Bloodlines.
She would run off into like smoke, and then she'd throw shit at you, which you'd dodge, and then she'd run at you, and you'd have a little window to counter, and it would be like that sort of thing. And that was really I really like that, because that was an actual challenging boss fight in an old Assassin's Creed game that worked for the game, and that's the kind of shit that you could do there.
They
As
used
opposed
to
to
be
having
creative.
an open space where you're drugged up and they basically zap you with lightning and go.
Yeah, they used to be really creative with the way they would do sort of Isu or like mystical quote unquote boss battles or like fights. Whereas now it is just health bar at the top, really oversized enemy that has explosions whenever they hit.
What is it with those big guys?
I don't know.
Those Gedrin or Goliath.
They've got some
whatever.
fetish for like enemies that are massive for some reason.
They're very tall. They're practically as wide as they are tall, and they're just. My favourite one is when you're when you're at Granta Bridge, and you take him back the town itself.
Yeah.
And you get to the longhouse.
Yeah.
One just busts the door open. He's just there. He takes up the entire doorway, and his mates just sort of like spew up from behind him. And it's almost
so
it's really
dumb.
like how are you that big? How are you that big?
it's silly.
What is a big man?
It's like the standard
he's about
bearers
the size of
as
your
well.
room.
The standard bearers are fucking massive in Valhalla for no reason.
It's so
Why are you
Standard
so
bearers,
big?
are those ones with the shields
flag,
and spears.
the flag when they run
Yeah,
about with
yeah,
that
yeah,
thing,
yeah, the big
really
flags,
big,
yeah.
thick boys. I hate the design of those guys. I don't know what their obsession is with, like, to show that an enemy's powerful, we need to fucking make it really big for some reason.
It's so odd. Like, why do they just not? I don't understand their obsession with making things as over the top as possible. They don't need to. Like, what's wrong with having something grounded? I don't get it.
I guess it's
They
because the
can
kids
have
don't
their
like it.
ridiculous in many ways, but sometimes there's just a massive, massive enemy that shows up, and you think, okay, but did anyone that big ever exist even now?
In the next game, there's going to be like some fucking massive man.
All I'm saying is, when I look at some of these big ones, is right, Maki's doesn't even exist yet. Like,
Yeah,
how?
what are you doing? You
How's
can't
that
even
mean?
get a nice little burger in you.
God damn it.
How did they get that? How did they get that large? What did they eat? And also,
Yeah, that's the thing.
The AXP.
People need to stop arguing about how Abby's so muscular. We need to start worrying about how these characters so big in Assassin's Creed. How did they get this
Yeah.
big? It's ridiculous.
the people actually argue about why Abby's so
yeah.
muscular in the last
People are
ones.
mad.
The
They
answer
do.
is so
They
simple.
do.
The answer is so simple. She bench presses.
She bench presses. They have a farm at the fucking
She's hard.
the WLF.
She bench presses because she's hard.
Yeah.
She only does 10 a day, and then she's hard.
Yeah, people
You
are just
know?
like, no, there's no way she can get that buff without steroids. Like, do you know how fucking working out works, you fucking idiot?
That's so dumb.
She absolutely fucking can. Yeah, no, it was such a dumb argument, that one, because she bench presses.
But with
innit?
regards to like boss battles and stuff, like in older Assassin's Creeds, I think a great example is like the Amarline boss fight at the end of Assassin's Creed 1, where like it is just a regular fight to an extent, but the way he uses the Piece of Eden is so inventive and creative and works with what they've built. Like, he's not just shooting laser beams at you, so you have to dodge at the right time and doing all this shit. Like, he drains your health bar and then will vanish, and you've got to go around and try and find him. And by attacking him, then you get your health back and you can try and fight him again. And you've got to think outside of the box. Like, okay, well, you got to try and knock him down, use the hidden blade maybe, or just keep playing his game or whatever. And like, that's an interesting setup for a boss fight, and it's able to keep you grounded in the game that they've built, and it explains sort of what the Pieces of Eden do as well. Like, it's just really well done.
Yeah,
and it's just a shame that they've gone down this route of let's just do this weird combination of The Witcher plus Dark Souls.
Yeah, God,
Witcher
it's so
plus
bad.
Dark Souls, but piss easy by comparison.
I hate. There's not one boss
But it's
battle
not-
that I
it's
like.
not that, and you'll die a lot, not because it's not easy, but because the gameplay sometimes doesn't actually mold the fight and the patterns of your enemy. Like, sometimes you are just fucked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I played on the
You just have
easiest
to wing it.
difficulty for combat and stealth, so I never really had that. but I can imagine on the harder difficulties, especially with the update they made a few weeks ago, where it made the game more difficult, that the bosses probably do just like Fenrir. When I did Fenrir,
Fenrir is not hard.
It's so bad.
It's just such an Odyssey boss fight because you spend 15 minutes fighting this giant wolf.
You're like,
such a shit.
I don't care what the explanation is for how we got there. We're doing it.
Mad.
You know,
I just shot him in the leg over and over again.
When you played Assassin's Creed 1, did you ever think that at this point you would be playing this Assassin's Creed game where you fight a gigantic wolf for 20 minutes straight? Well, it doesn't even do anything remotely difficult.
It fucking glitches through the
I would
ground
not
as
played
well.
another minute of another game if I had known that was going to happen. Holy fuck.
It's one of those things, like, we can talk about this.
Tyler
like,
has not been speaking.
how mad is it, though, that we can talk
well,
about
well,
like,
here's the
all
thing.
these
Here's the
things we
thing.
love and all these things we hate at the same time? It's so weird.
Valhalla's a
I hate all
polarizing
of it.
game.
I hate all of it. It's 1:20 in the morning. I've been up since 6 this morning
shit,
working.
it's late
I
for
got
you,
work.
man.
I've got work tomorrow. I honestly want to fucking die right now, even listening to this conversation. But
Dude,
it's the first Four
honestly,
Pillars podcast. I just want to be here for you boys, and I'm not just gonna bail out.
You're
but
a
like I'm
trooper,
saying,
man.
like I need sleep
Yeah,
so
well-
much, and fucking like I've got nothing else to say about the game.
Yeah, we've done
Like
a pretty
obviously
deep
you guys
fucking
do,
dive.
but I just have nothing else to say about it.
You could always
Like-
do a part.
I don't want to talk about how tall the bosses are. I'm like, fucking who cares?
We're not talking about how
Like,
tall they are. We're talking about how ridiculous they are because they're tall. Like, get with it, man.
I'm like, and if it was a normal time of day and I didn't work all day and I work tomorrow, I'm like, it'd be fine. But I'm like, oh my god, it's 1:20.
I mean,
I'm
we've
like,
we've gone over everything, I think.
Yeah,
I
there's
think we've gone
nothing
over the
else.
most
I'm
3
so
hours, we
sorry,
touched upon
boys.
everything
I
that's
feel so bad.
important.
You'll see,
Yeah.
everyone's going to see in the last 20, 30 minutes of this podcast, me literally like banging my head against the mic. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh, that's gonna be fucking hilarious. I can't wait. I
man.
cannot wait.
That's brilliant because you know that.
Oh, I'm
you know
sorry,
that's gonna
boys.
become a meme.
I've been
I think
I've been
I think I
trying.
made
Just
a
like
meme of-
been trying.
I think I made a meme of James from the trailer thing where where I zoomed in on your face a bit and then screenshotted it at just the right moment where it looks like you're done with life.
Oh yeah.
So that'll be when that trailer goes up, I'm just gonna tweet.
Mystical elements.
Mystical elements.
Mystical
Could we just
elements.
make things a bit more law friendly, please?
A big fucking snake.
That's the least of my worries.
Yeah, true. We've got to fight loads of shit in the future.
We got to fight a giant wolf.
Big
man.
snake good, Fenrir bad.
Can we fight a giant octopus at some point? We might as well go the full way with this. man.
Yes.
Yeah, see,
Have
look,
the
this is
protagonist
it. You
get-
guys are just haters.
Imagine if in Black Flag you fought the fucking Kraken.
Stop
Imagine.
complaining about this big wolf in Assassin's Creed. They've always had mystical elements. Remember in AC2 when there was the giant octopus? You're just a hater. Stop it.
Yeah, you're just a shit cunt.
The giant octopus in Assassin's Creed 2, or imagine if we fought the Kraken in Black Flag. That's how.
If they made
absurd
Black
it would
Flag
be.
now, they'd do that. They'd be like,
They'd
oh,
have-
you do that and you get the most
Yar, har,
epic, legendary weapon.
Epic Kraken.
Yeah.
The Kraken,
Yeah, no.
the Kraken drops the fucking sword of Eden because it's been using it underwater, and you fucking
You get the
go and
Isu
grab
boat.
it.
And you get to
Yeah.
epic ram into things.
The Isu jackdaw that has a force field around it
Yeah,
and
yeah,
shoots
yeah,
lasers
yeah, of
instead of
course,
cannons.
Can I just
Yeah, yeah.
can I just issue a long-winded apology to Tyler for wasting 3 hours of his life?
Honestly,
talking
I'm
man.
sorry, Tyler. I'm sorry.
We're sorry,
I
but
know,
welcome.
I
You're
get
welcome,
I
Tyler.
get
Wrap
it. You
up.
guys have
You're
a lot
welcome.
more to say than I do. I apologize for being out of it because I'm so excited for this show launch. I'm so excited to be
honestly,
here.
man, that's cool.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just at the
it's-
point now where
it's
it's like
been a banger.
I literally like it has been the busiest fucking week, and yesterday like I was up for so long and I was about to pass out. Like I had so much to do. I've just moved into this house.
Yeah.
I was wrecked. I've worked all week, worked today. I've had no free time to just chill out other than like I had 3 hours between work and this podcast.
Ah, yeah.
Fuck,
And
man.
like, you know what I mean? And I just sort of chilled out, had dinner with my girl, was like pumped for this show.
Now
And it's
ruined
great.
you.
It's been great. But then the last probably 45 minutes I'm like, I literally nothing to add. I have
Assassin's
nothing to
Creed
add.
Valhalla
And I'm just
broke me.
tired.
It's broken
honestly,
him. It's broken
Odyssey
him,
did
guys.
not break me. Valhalla broke me. Valhalla
It
break
broke
me.
him.
It seems
It broke
so.
it.
Imagine
Imagine Valhalla
Valhalla broke
breaking
me.
the unbreakable
My
mighty
God,
Tyler.
it sounds like someone just
no,
didn't play
what a
the
shame.
London arc, to be honest. So
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So you just didn't play the London
Yeah.
arc. Or the
It
York,
sounds
or
like
the
someone just
Winchester,
doesn't get it, James. It sounds like
or
I
the
just don't
Kent
get
arc.
it.
My favourite arc was the Kent
Yeah.
arc because
you
Yeah.
also
Trees.
probably didn't play the mythical arcs. That's why you don't get it. idiot.
You probably didn't. You probably shouldn't understand it,
guys.
You also probably
at the
didn't
end of the
even buy
day,
the
I don't understand. I just don't understand it. And you know what? Whatever.
You're an old
Just
boomer.
let it end.
You didn't even play
Just
the
let it
Norway.
end.
You're just an
arc.
idiot, man. You look. You said the same thing about Odyssey, and then you 100%ed it. So I bet you're gonna play the next day. See when it rolls around. You just can't help yourself, Tyler.
Like,
Yeah, Tyler's gonna go back on himself. Classic
Tyler
Tyler.
is known for playing everything Assassin's Creed related, regardless of what it is. He's known for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because
yeah. And trust me, even just out of stubbornness, I promise you, I will absolutely not play Valhalla ever again.
The more people say
and
that you're going to go back on your word, the more you want.
Oh my god. Yeah, exactly, James. You know me well enough to know.
You'll go further.
How stubborn
I'm
I
not
am.
playing the
People are
SEO
that
games ever
stupid.
again. Fuck you guys. I'm just going to prove
Yeah,
it.
like that's honestly people are like, oh, Tyler will do it. Tyler's weird. I'm
man.
like, you don't understand how stubborn I am. James,
They just
knows
don't
how
know
stubborn
you.
I am. I'm like, the more you say, you know,
For
people
some
don't know
reason,
me.
my recording
you guys
started
don't
to
get
restart
it. You guys don't get me, and that's ultimately what it is. You guys don't get me. Fuck. No, honestly, no. I regret a lot of it, to be honest. But here we are.
yeah.
But at
the
the end of the day,
I mean,
at the end of the day,
I hope you
the
at
time
least
I spent,
found
I guess
something
what I've got,
from the 200 hours.
what I've got from it, what I've got from Valhalla is this: that I'll never have to spend another hour playing Assassin's
He is a
Creed
prophet
again.
of regret.
I got a
that's what
question,
I've got from
Tyler. I got a question. Actually, this is quite important. So do you now hate Halo or Assassin's Creed more?
Such a random place for a Halo joke.
In their current states?
Halo more.
Okay.
It's actually made you play as log
Halo more.
20 hours.
Yeah,
Or however long it is.
yeah. Halo more. Halo more. I was way more disappointed with that. Whereas Assassin's Creed sort of been a slow burn.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed has been like, it has been like
He really is the
decline
prophet of
for
regret.
9
brutal
years now.
death. Yeah, 9 years and counting.
But I'm just, but now I just like, this.
It forgets what it is.
There's so many good games. There's so many good games out there. Why waste another second playing this shit?
Yeah, like
I'm
you
not
can go
going
play
to. And
Final
that's
Fantasy
at the end
7
of the day.
or
Final Fantasy 7.
Oh.
Oh my god, yes.
And I
Assassin's
still
Creed
haven't
is like
finished
having
it,
a
and it's
relative with
amazing, and
Alzheimer's.
that's all I want to do.
It just never
I
ends.
forgot my setup, and the next week, once I
Forgets
finish
and never ends.
setting everything up at this house, you know, in the next Monday, Tuesday this week, then I'll actually be able to turn on a PS5. I haven't played a game
I still
or turned
need to
on a
play that.
console.
I'll
in
get around to
2021.
playing that.
Wow.
Wow.
You should play Horizon.
Yeah, well, mate. Okay, mate. Yeah, okay,
To be
guys.
fair, when Forbidden,
Fucking
you
hell.
got Forbidden
We've
West to look
talked about
forward to,
Valhalla
man.
enough. This is the Four Pillars podcast. The first episode of the Four Pillars podcast. I'm wrapping this shit up. I can't.
Please
do it. It's
do.
one
Go
thing
for
to
it,
do.
man.
I feel like
Go
I'm
for
gonna
it,
die.
man. You've earned
Like
it.
I literally am so tired and delusional.
Be all set.
You've earned it, Tyler. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so glad we're launching the show. I hope people enjoyed it. I look like death. I'm sure people are going to laugh, and there's going to be some memes of the last 30, 40
look
minutes
great.
of me.
You've done everything you need to do.
No, I guess I am. Yeah, I am in a bit of a back shed in the den here at the studio, and I just need to go upstairs to my bed. I need to have a shower because I've been fucking sweaty at work all day.
Yeah.
Wait, hang on. Are you in like a shed?
I got things that
Are you
need
in
to
like a shed
happen.
at mid,
but
past
ultimately, I need to go to
midnight?
bed and get up and go to work tomorrow. So that's where we're at.
Have a nice slumber.
But it doesn't matter. What matters is, and then I've got a podcast to record again after.
Oh.
You know, that's I'll see you all you know, tomorrow for Streamcast on this channel. So yeah, that's where we're at. Talking about WandaVision. That I'll enjoy that a lot fucking more than talking about
WandaVision's
Valhalla.
so fucking good, man.
I'm going to be a guest on the first episode of Streamcast with Eddie and Sheps. So I see. Yeah, that's what I'm recording tomorrow. So after work, and then I'll have an hour gap between that, and then I'll have some dinner quickly, and then record a podcast.
Are you
so
on
that's
Stream-
my
are you on
week's
Streamcast
my week's
then?
been big. It's what it is. But the Four Pillars podcast, Four Pillars Network, we're
have you-
here. It's
oh, is that what you're
exciting.
recording tomorrow then?
Please
Like,
subscribe,
as of
like the
recording this?
podcast, join the movement here, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Thanks, boys, for being here and coming
Blimey.
together. This is going to be a big journey.
It's been a blast.
Over the next, hopefully, many years.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, ladies. It's been a blast. And
Thanks, AC Follow. I really enjoyed my time here, mate.
all right. Yeah. Well, but with that, ladies and gentlemen, Thank you for watching and listening. This podcast is available on podcast
Thanks for having me on, Dynamite. It's been a blast.
It might take a couple of days for all the services to load up. Like
it takes me a while to get
pretty
into
quick.
the swing of
SoundCloud
trying to
will be
imitate
up there,
anyone,
but
so
iTunes, Apple
apologies.
Podcasts, that might take a few days. But we're going to be here. Check us out. Thank you for listening and watching, and we will see you all for Streamcast with Conversations and me tomorrow. As always, podcast next Monday, and 2 weeks from now for the episode 2 of the Four Pillars podcast.
Oh, that sounds good.
Goodbye. Yeah, Ethan. Good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh god. We love you all.
It's over. Assassin's Creed's over for me.
I just want to say before we go, putting Tyler through 3 hours of pain has been the most satisfying.
Great job, guys.
We love you all.
That's a really good mod day again.
Oh.
Nice one. Catch you later, everybody.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
I guess.